Hello everyone, and welcome to Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting series on what if Naruto was a revenge god. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. It happened again. He was being beat and no one would help him. I'm of course talking about Naruto Uzumaki, the demon child. Usually he'd only be ignored, but not today, because today was October 10th, Naruto's birthday, and also the most dreaded day. A big crowd was gathered around him, beating him, some even stabbing him in the arms and legs with kunai. He looked around, his eyes going in every direction, hoping to find someone to save him. But no one would help him. No one wanted to help the Kyuubi brat. The Hokage was worried about Naruto, though no one could tell. He wished he could have a break so he could go see if Naruto was alright, but he was sure he wasn't, knowing full well what day it was. So Sarutobi and yes, he's still alive, if only for a little. While fearing the worst, decided to take a look into the crystal ball. What he saw shocked him to the bone. Naruto was on the ground, lying in a pool of his own blood. He knew what he had to do. "Kuza," he called. Instantly a Anbu with a tiger mask appeared. "Yes, Hokage-sama," he replied. "Go help Naruto." Kuza was taken aback. The Hokage had literally shouted. "Right away," he said as he disappeared. The third could only pray that everything turned out for the best. It was only then that he had heard joy in Kauza's voice. He couldn't take it anymore. He wished it would all end. Yet still he kept crying out, "Help me please," but no one did. They just laughed and threw things at him. Then suddenly there was a poof as a man with a mask came up to them. "Stop right now," he said. One of the villagers turned around and asked, "Who are you and why do you want to save him? He's the fox demon. He killed our families." The man just said, "I'm Kuza." And with that he punched the villager in the face and made his way towards, moved out of his way as he looked at the bloody and battered Naruto, and he almost felt sorry for the boy. Almost. When he realized the torture had stopped, Naruto cautiously lifted his head and looked around. When Naruto saw the villagers looking scared, he turned his head to right and saw a masked man beside him. He asked, "Are you going to help me?" Kuza looked at him and said, "Yes, I'm going to help you. On your way to the grave." Behind him the villagers cheered as they stepped closer, getting ready for the kill. In the tower the Hokage couldn't believe what he was seeing. To say he wanted to kill these villagers and Kuza was by all means an understatement. He was going to go stop this himself when out of the corner of his eye he caught what looked to be a hooded man. Forgetting all about his anger, he gazed curiously into the crystal ball. He could only hope this strange man would help him. The hooded man was so angry he was shaking. Moments before he had heard shouting and went to see what was wrong, only to find these people plus an Anbu destroying a mere child. He was distracted out of his thoughts when he saw a giant fire dragon rushing in to finish the boy off. He had to do something quick or else this boy would die. In his office Sarutobi's eyes widened at what he saw. If anyone had seen what happened, they would have been surprised to see the hooded man suddenly disappear, only leaving a light where he once stood. Just as the dragon was about to kill Naruto, a blinding light suddenly flashed before their eyes. The villagers, thinking that was normal, cheered because they thought the demon was finally gone. Kuza, however, knew better. He just didn't know what happened. Back at the tower, Sarutobi still didn't know what or who that man was, but he was happy nonetheless. Later the Hokage got his most trusted and faithful Anbu members to round up all the villagers. They also tried to get Kuza, but he attacked one of the Anbu, so now he was currently having fun with Morino Ibiki in the interrogation room. When asked what happened, one of the villagers were stupid enough to say, "Does it matter? We almost killed him." Needless to say, he was executed. Everyone could see that the Hokage wasn't playing games, so they decided to cut the crap and tell him what happened. Everyone stated they didn't see what saved the boy, but most of them swore they saw a streak of yellow light, then Naruto was gone. Minutes later a report came from the hospital saying that one of the nurses saw a bright yellow light blazing through the hospital and went into one of the rooms. When the nurse checked the room, she reported that Naruto Uzumaki was laying there sound asleep. A Chunin guarding the gate also said a strange yellow flash went straight through the gate and into the forest. As Sarutobi sat back in his chair, he wondered just what happened today and what strange events would happen in the future. Well, this is the first chapter of my first FIC. I hoped everyone liked it. I don't know about Kuza, I might not use him anymore. I'll think about it. Please review. No flames. If anyone has any ideas, just tell me and I might consider using them. As for what I meant about slight Naru, Anko, you'll see in the future. It's mostly just because of Anko's games. If you see any errors, let me know. Till we meet again. Fourth's son, the hooded man, recalled how he had saved that boy, Naruto. He had found out his name after doing some snooping. Of course, that wasn't the only thing he found out. The boy he had saved was in fact the container of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. The man had asked one of the villagers why they attacked the boy if they think he's a demon. The villager just said that in numbers they could kill it before it did any more damage and took away more of anyone's. Had made him angry. Naruto was the one and only person who kept the fox away, and here are these stupid villagers attacking the hero of Konoha. It made him wonder what Sarutobi was doing all this time. The man decided he would go have a chat with the Sandame. With that he jumped onto the rooftops and sped towards the tower. Naruto was sleeping peacefully when he felt water on his face. He sat up and groaned when he saw where he was, at the sewers of his MNID. Great, here we go again, he thought as he walked towards the only thing that could have called him here. This was the second time he had come here. The first time had been arrow Sennin threw him over the cliff. He still hadn't forgiven Jiraiya for that. What if he hadn't been able to tap into the fox's chakra? Then he spotted him, the great king of demons, the Kyuubi no Kitsune, smiling, that big fox-like grin that Naruto seems to have copied from. So Naruto did the only thing he could. Dohei just walked up to the cage and asked, "So fox, what am I here for?" "Ha ha 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 ha, you will address me as Kyuubi-sama, you little brat." "The heck I will," Naruto shouted. "Now tell me what you brought me for." "Foolish little. Never mind, the reason I brought you here is about the incident that took place 2 days ago." "Yeah, what about it?" Naruto asked. "It was just another beating, except this time there was a Anbu member as well." "I don't care about who attacked you, Gaki," the Kyuubi replied. "I'm talking about the man who saved you. Or did you think you just appeared in the hospital?" "So, what does this man have to do with anything?" Naruto asked. "He just saved me. Maybe he's one of the nice and caring people of this village." "Maybe so, but I'm not concerned about him saving you," Kyuubi stated. "What intrigues me is that jutsu he used to save you." "So what about the jutsu?" Naruto asked. "Why is it so important to you, fox?" "Stupid little. Are you that brainless?" Kyuubi asked. "Actually, don't answer that. The reason it intrigues is because that was the Hiroshin no Jutsu, and as far back as I can remember, there was only one person who could do that jutsu." "Only one person? Wow, so who was it?" Naruto asked excitedly. "He must have been super strong." "Oh come, please tell me." The Kyuubi just sighed, amazed at his host's ignorance. But still he answered. "The one only person who could ever use that move was the fourth Hokage." Naruto was speechless, so he just stared at the great fox in front of him with wide eyes. Did you just say the fourth Hokage?" But before the fox could answer, he just said, "Someone's here later, Baka." And with that, Naruto was forcefully pushed out of his mind and woke up with bright lights trying to get underneath his eyelids. Hokage's office. Sarutobi stared in wonder at the man in front of him. He was wearing a light blue hoodie with gold trim and light blue baggy pants, also with gold trim. The man's hood was pulled over so you couldn't see his face. Sarutobi still remembered that this man had saved Naruto, so guessed he wasn't an enemy, but he couldn't be sure, so he had various anbu placed around the room that looked like furniture. He was so deep in thought about the jutsu the man used he barely heard him speak. "Aren't you kind of old to still be Hokage, Sarutobi?" the man asked playfully. "I mean, really, aren't you turning 100 this year?" Sarutobi just chuckled before answering. "I've still got a few years left in this old body of mine. And for your information, I'm only 85, quite young, don't think. But down to business first. I'd like to thank you for saving Naruto." The man was about to answer, but Sarutobi cut him off. "Wait, let me finish. As I said, thanks for saving Naruto, but I have to know, who are you and what are you here for?" Sarutobi said questionably. The man just laughed outright before replying. "You're welcome. No one deserves to be hurt, no matter what they carry inside their bodies. And as for your other questions, I'm sorry, but I can't tell you who I am." "But," the man said, "as for why I'm here, let's just say I'm fulfilling a promise I made to someone precious to me." The Hokage just sighed but asked, "Well, you should at least tell me how you can do the Hiroshin no Jutsu. Don't you think?" The man just looked at him simply and said, "A friend's gift before you went to the afterlife?" "But if you must know, my name is Hospital Uzumaki's room." Naruto heard someone call his name, so after he finished groaning he sat up and looked at the speaker with wide eyes. "You?" he shouted. "You're the man that saved me?" "Yes, I am," the mystery man replied. I haven't seen you in a while, to be exact I haven't seen you for 14 years. Naruto was in shock at what the man had told him. He couldn't believe the stranger knew him when he was little. But that thought alone was enough to make more questions pop into his head. How does he know me? Why did he save me? Who is he? Is he my dad? Why doesn't he hate me? I wonder what his face looks like. He was about to ask this kind person more about what he said, but as he did, 4 Anbu members appeared. They surrounded the stranger and one of them said, "Hokage-sama requests your presence." And with that they disappeared along with the man, but not before he said, later Naruto. Said boy was wondering if he could get the man to be his friend, maybe even train him. He was about to relax when a nurse came in, said simply, "Get out," before she turned and left the room. Finally Naruto thought he could get out of here and have some ramen. With that one thought in mind, Naruto went to the bathroom to put on his clothes, and no, it's not the orange jumpsuit. When the demon's hero poof away with the Anbu, he actually just teleported outside the hospital so he could walk through the village that was supposed to be the most friendly village no matter what background you had. Apparently this wasn't the case, as he had seen the torture of Naruto. If anyone took a passing glance at him, the person would have thought the hooded stranger was okay, but if someone looked closer they would see that he was seething. Of course, no one would even try to get next to him with the killing intent he was giving off. Of course the man didn't care because he was trying to shake some nasty thoughts from his head. Look at this village, what has it become? How could they treat Naruto like this? If I was Naruto I would have attacked these stupid villagers long ago. Sarutobi should have stopped things before they got out of hand. Well, someone's going to stop this, and if the Hokage doesn't, then I would take matters into my own hands. The man snapped out of his thoughts. Would he really use force to prevent the beatings on Naruto? He wondered but decided to go see what the old man wanted. Hokage's office. Sarutobi was about to see what was taking him so long until poof, and he was standing in front of the Hokage's desk. "You called?" the stranger asked. "Yes," the old man said. "I want you to train Naruto so he'll be ready for the Chunin exams." "What?" the man screamed. "Are you kidding? Why me? Doesn't he have a Chunin sensei?" "Yes," the Hokage said, "but reports say that his sensei is showing favoritism to his other student." The stranger sighed. "Who's his sensei?" Sarutobi looked at him and said, "Hitaki Kakashi, that's his sensei's name, and he'd rather train the Uchiha." The hooded man was busy thinking to himself, Kakashi, that fool, how could he ignore Naruto knowing who he was, and not only that but decided to train in stupid Uchiha. Curse the Uchiha brat and his clan, thinking they were superior when he could have wiped them out all at once. He stopped himself. Why was he thinking such thoughts of hurting everyone that hurt or interfered with Naruto's training? He could only wonder. The man faced the Hokage and asked, "How long till the Chunin exams?" Sarutobi said, 3 months. So will you take him as your student? "Yes, I will." The man said, "I'll go train him." Then he poofed away to go find Naruto. Random Street. Naruto had finally gotten out of the hospital and was happy that he was okay, and to celebrate he was going to Ichiraku's ramen, his favorite place to go. He didn't feel like putting up with the villagers, so he stuck to the shadows. He seemed to blend right in with what he was wearing. Right now he had on a black silk shirt with armor on the chest area, also he on black baggy pants with many pockets. On his hands he had black gloves with brass knuckles attached to them. On his feet he had steel toe boots. On his head he wore a hat like Morino Ibiki's, and he had a big trench coat that went to the floor. Plus he was all muscle with no baby fat anywhere, which made some girls blush when they saw him. Seeing Ichiraku's ramen he went in and sat down, then he felt a hand on his shoulder. So Naruto looked up to see none other than a grinning Enko Mitarashi staring at him. "I see you're back looking even better than before," she said as she stepped closer to him. Naruto felt his body give a shudder, which didn't go unnoticed by Anko. "What's the matter, Naruto-kun? Are you sure you're still not sick?" She stepped even closer to Naruto and said, "I could help you feel better." Naruto was frozen as she put her hand on his forehead and said, "You know you want to." "Oh come on," Anko said, "I could make a healthy boy." Ahem, am I interrupting something?" Naruto turned to see none other than his savior, who Naruto swore was quietly laughing at them. "You. No, you're not interrupting anything." Naruto turned to Anko only to find she wasn't there. "She teleported away when I appeared," the stranger said. "Anyway, you're just the guy the first wanted to see." Naruto was confused why the man wanted to see him, so he asked, Why do you want to see me? The mystery man just said, the Chunin exams are coming up and I wanted to train you so you'd be stronger. And because I know your sensei favors the stupid Uchiha instead training all of his genin equally. Great, Naruto exclaimed, I'll be the greatest. So when do we start? The man looked at him and said, tomorrow at 7 a.m. be there, training ground 7. Then he poofed away. 6 a.m. beep 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 pbam. Boom. There goes the 100th clock. Naruto groaned and sat up. Rubbing his eyes, he went into the bathroom and took a shower. After that he got dressed, ate some ramen, and walked out the door, locking it before he ran full speed to the designated training at 7 o'clock. The hooded man appeared. All right, he said, before I train you I need to see your skills and what you need to improve in. Awesome, Naruto exclaimed. When do we start? The man just smiled and said ready, go. And with that they started the battle. As soon as Naruto heard the word go he ran at Arashi as he could. He threw a punch with his right only to find that Arashi had grabbed his fist and flipped him through the air. Naruto got up in and again ran at Arashi, trying to fake him out by making the Yondaime think he was going to punch with his left only to attempt to hit Arashi with an chakra-enforced uppercut using his right. Now, as we all know, Naruto has a seemingly endless amount of chakra and uses way too much, so even when Arashi blocked it he felt like a boulder rolled over his hand and his wrist. And yes, even though he was the 4th Hokage he can still get hurt, and remember there's brass knuckles attached to his gloves. Arashi grunted, then punched Naruto in the stomach so hard his eyes bulged and he was lifted into the air. The Yondaime was about to go check and see if Naruto was when the Kyuubi container got on his feet and got into a fighting stance so horrible that even an academy student could tell he had no taijutsu training. Naruto gathered chakra in his legs and ran at Arashi, intent to hit him this time, only to knock back with a foot to the face. Deciding to take a different approach, Naruto gathered chakra and shouted, Shadow Clone Jutsu. Suddenly 8 other Narutos appeared and then they all got kunais out and charged. Notice. This isn't the end of the chapter, but the reason I'm not using the Japanese names for the jutsus is because I shamefully admit I don't know any. Help me please. Back to the story. Arashi was shocked. Wow, he thought he knows the Shadow Clone Jutsu, but he was snapped out of his thoughts when he saw 8 clones rushing at him with kunai. The 4th just grinned as one of the clones tried to kick him in the face. He simply dodged the pathetic attempt of an attack and kneed the clone in the stomach, making it poof away. His grin disappeared as he felt a foot connect with the back of his head. Naruto was cheering, happy that he had simply landed a hit on the seemingly untouchable man. However, his mood quickly changed from happiness to sadness when the man laying on the ground disappeared, only to leave a log in his place. Arashi hastily ran to the 2 clones in front of him and punched both of them in the stomach. He kept running and made a Rasengan in his hand and rammed it through 3 of the clones' abdomen area before the Rasengan dispersed. He then ran up to what he thought was the last clone and hit him with a roundhouse kick that sent the clone flying and crashing through one of the logs. And you know the log Naruto got tied to. Smiling to himself, he looked around for Naruto. It was then that he realized he hadn't heard the last clone. Poof, away. Hurriedly he ran to the log that Naruto had crashed into and looked at him. Naruto was laying on the ground, panting and favoring his right side. Slowly he picked himself up off the ground and looked at the man and said, "What's wrong with you? You probably broke 2 of my ribs." Silently Arashi cursed himself. "Sorry, I got carried away." Arashi explained, "Let me heal you." He moved over to Naruto and put his now glowing hands on Naruto's chest. "There, now that should be better." Arashi was about to say something else until heard 3 people landed on the ground behind them. After making sure his hood was still on, he turned around to face them. Surprisingly enough, Naruto was already facing them. Arashi looked away from Naruto and at the 3 people facing them. He looked at the girl on the left. She had a worried expression on her face as she looked at Naruto but didn't say anything. She had bubblegum-colored hair and a pink skirt on with black shorts on underneath. Judging by the hair, he guessed she was a Haruno. He allowed his gaze to linger for a moment before his eyes focused on the boy in the middle. He noticed that Naruto was staring intently at this boy, so Arashi figured that that must be the Uchiha. Arashi, however, thought that the boy didn't look like much more than a child who simply needed an attitude adjustment. Then finally he looked at their Chunin instructor. His eyes widened at who was standing there. It couldn't be Arashi, thought. It's Kakashi. Arashi, now fully focusing his gaze on Kakashi, looking at him with a scowl and hardly hidden anger. Kakashi, pretending not to notice, just asked, "What are doing here? This is Team 7's training ground." The Yondaime looked at Kakashi and said angrily, "I'm training Naruto, and since he's a member of Team 7 I can be here anytime I want." It was then that Sasuke spoke up for the first time. "Training? Why are you training him? You should train me." Arashi replied, "Why should I train you? You've a sensei that completely ignores the rest of his team just so he can train you?" Sasuke smirked at him and said, "Because I said so, and you can't refuse me because I'm an Uchiha." "So what if you're an Uchiha?" Arashi asked. "It's not like you're the only one." Sasuke just stared at him. "Where in the 5 nations have you been? Prison. Everyone knows there's only 2 of them left." Arashi smirked at him. "Yeah, I know. At least your brother isn't a complete waste of time." Sasuke had had enough. Without thinking, he charged at the Yondaime, wanting to knock his face off for mocking. Things didn't turn out the way he planned. Just as Sasuke's fist was about to connect with Arashi's face, his hand reached out and grabbed Sasuke's wrist. Then he twisted hard. Sasuke screamed while everyone else heard a sickening crunch. Then, just to shut the stupid boy up, Arashi kicked Sasuke in the jaw as hard as he could. Which of course, since he is a Hokage, is very hard, duh. Naruto, Sakura, and Kakashi just heard another crunch, but to Sasuke it felt like his face went one-on-one with a bullet train. Needless to say, we all know which one won. Sasuke. Sakura screamed as ran towards Sasuke, who was laying there holding his jaw, seeing as how his other arm was useless. Kakashi closed his book and walked towards Naruto and Arashi. "Naruto, get over here now, that man is dangerous." Naruto was confused about what to do. On one hand was a man that saved him, was nice, didn't care about the demon he had inside him, and even offered to train him. On the other hand was perverted, one-eyed copycat who always ignored him and never did anything to help him. It was an obvious choice, so he did what he had to do. "No," he shouted at Kakashi. "I'm not going anywhere with you," and with that he walked towards Arashi, who smiled at him. Kakashi tried a different tactic. "But why not think of all the awesome jutsu I could teach you?" Kakashi said, hoping this would work. "No," Naruto again shouted. "Anything you could teach me, he could teach me better. And besides, you copied those jutsu from other people." "Zabuza was right," Naruto said. "You are nothing without the Sharingan." Kakashi wanted to kill Naruto for what he just said but refrained himself from doing so. So he just stated his favorite phrase. "Remember, Naruto, those who break the rules are scum. But those who abandon their friends are worse than scum. And you're breaking the rules and abandoning your friends, so what does that make you, Naruto?" Naruto was about to reply, but Arashi beat him to it. "You want to talk about abandoning your friends? Well, you'd know all about that, wouldn't you, Kakashi?" Arashi questioned. Kakashi tensed but didn't say anything as the hooded stranger kept talking. "As I recall, 15 years ago, didn't you leave a so-called friend named Obito there to die right after he gave you his Sharingan?" Kakashi wished the man would shut up, but Arashi just continued on. "And then 1 year later, when Rin Inuzuka got excommunicated, you didn't even bother to help her, did you?" "No, you didn't. You just stood there as the council decided to banish her from the village." Kakashi was shaking with rage as he wondered how the man knew almost everything about his past life. "Then you let your father down as well." That was it. Kakashi had had enough. He was going to kill this man and punish Naruto severely for not obeying his commands. The copy ninja charged at hooded man with a battle cry. "Ah!" Kakashi screamed while going in for a leg sweep, which the man just jumped over. As soon Arashi jumped over Kakashi's pathetic attempt of an attack, he applied a huge amount of chakra to his feet and slammed both of his feet down on Kakashi's unsuspecting legs. Crunch. Crack. That was the sound as both of the Cyclops ninja's legs both broke, the bones shattered. Arashi decided to use a fire jutsu to end this battle. Fire style. Fire release. Flame dragon jutsu. Without warning, a gigantic dragon made of flames appeared and crashed right into Kakashi's stomach, making cry out because of the pain. Naruto just gaped at the hooded man that would soon be his sensei. Had 2 different thoughts. "Man, I better make sure I don't make him mad," was his first thought. And his second thought was, "Ha ha ha, who's the loser now, Sasuke? Take that, you one-eyed freakazoid." And with these thoughts in mind, he ran after his savior, who had turned around and walked away. Ex-Hokage's office Sarutobi couldn't believe what he had just witnessed. He had seen what happened through his crystal ball. How strong is this man? The Sandaime wondered. He took down Kakashi without even breaking a sweat. Plus he knew the Rasengan. Who is this man? The man had told Sarutobi that his name was Kyaku, but the old man could tell he was lying by the way he acted. Still he didn't seem to be a threat, so the third let it slide. Pushing these thoughts aside, he got back to his knot before thinking of how much the council was going to hate this. Arashi was going to go to Ichiraku's for some ramen when he heard Naruto fall on the back. He saw a man standing over Naruto with a grin on his face. Oops, sorry, demon. The man starting laughing, then he kicked Naruto in the stomach. He was about to hit him again, but he felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned around only to be slugged in the face by Arashi. Oops, sorry, little man, Arashi said to the villager, who was now on his hands and knees trying to get up. Naruto got up and looked at the man, then at Arashi, who just nodded and said, "Go ahead, pay him back for his kindness." Naruto didn't know what to do. He knew that if he attacked a villager it would be considered treason. But here was this man that told him to hit the villager since the guy started it first. So he decided it was payback time for tripping him, then kicking him. Naruto took a step towards the man and kicked him, the unsuspecting man, in the stomach. "That's one down," Arashi said. "Now for two." Naruto nodded and again kicked the villager in his abdomen. With that done, the Kyuubi container turned around and was about to walk away when Arashi stopped him. "He was about to hit you again. If I hadn't stopped him, then he would have kept hitting you and eventually more people would have came and joined in. Show him and all these other villagers that you aren't afraid of them." Naruto thought about it for a minute before he faced the man and raised his leg as high as it could go before bringing it down on the poor man's back. With a pained grunt, the had a collison with the ground before passing out. Hokage's office Sarutobi had just got back from the hospital after hearing a boo the aswalt on Kakashi and Sasuke Uchiha. He of course already knew what happened to them but wanted to check and see if they were okay. Or as okay as you could possibly be with a broken arm and a broken jaw, or having both of your legs broken. A Chunin came in and said that Naruto Uzumaki and an unknown ninja attacked a defenseless villager. Then he left. Sarutobi was worried about Kyaku's influences over Naruto. Kakashi had told him that he was a bad influence, and the Sandaime had denied it, but now he was beginning to agree with Kakashi. He decided he was going to have a little chat with the two of them. With that in mind, he signaled for the Anbu. Sarutobi was leaning back in his chair wondering what he should do about Kyaku when someone knocked on his door. "Enter," said the third. After he said that, the door opened and Hiyashi Hyuga walked in and slammed the door behind him. The Sandaime could tell he was angry, so he tried to calm the Hyuga down. "Ah, Hiyashi, what's wrong wit?" The old man never got to finish because Hiyashi cut him off. "Wrong, I'll tell you what's wrong, you old fool." Hiyashi was so angry he didn't even notice what he said. "I went to the hospital to check on Hanabi, and imagine my surprise when I see Sasukeuchiha and Hitaki Kakashi in the same room as my daughter." Sarutobi sighed. Great, just what he needed, another headache. Hiyashi continued to shout at the third Hokage. "Are you just going to stand there, or will you tell me what happened?" Sarutobi looked at him and said, "Yes, I will, only if you lower your voice and calm down." Hiyashi flinched. It wasn't often that the Hokage shouted, but when he did it wasn't pretty. When the Hyuga leader was silent, the third took that as a sign to continue. "They were injured in a fight against an unknown ninja." Hiyashi looked shocked before he asked, "You mean the hooded man that showed up and saved the demon?" Sarutobi sighed. "Yes, the man that saved Naruto is the same one that injured Kakashi and Sasuke." Again Hiyashi looked shocked, but he said, "Are you insane letting him walk around without Anbu telling him? There are reports of him and Naruto attacking the villagers. You should arrest him and have Ibiki and Anko interrogate him." Sarutobi just smiled at Hiyashi and said, "What's the matter, afraid they might attack you?" Hiyashi was furious but decided to keep his temper in check. "Please, if they attacked me, your hospital would have 2 more patients. But the point is that you need to do something about those 2. "Oh, don't worry," Sarutobi replied. "I'm going to have a chat with them pretty soon." Hiyashi spat. "Good, because if you don't then I will." And with that, the head of the Hyuga clan walked out the door. Sarutobi frowned before getting back to his paperwork, wondering what could possibly be going through Hiyashi's head. Training Ground 7 Naruto was breathing hard. He was so sweaty that his clothes were sticking to him. Arashi was a few feet away, smiling at him. Naruto's gotten better, he thought. I've only been training him for a week and he's improved greatly. Maybe now I could teach him a new jutsu. So have I gotten better at my taijutsu? Naruto asked. Yes, you have, Arashi replied, and your chakra control has greatly improved. That brings me to a decision. I could teach you a new jutsu or I could teach you a special summon. An will be my own summon, not the frog. I claim rights to this and no one else can use it unless you ask, and if I like his or her story. Naruto was jumping around because he was so happy. But he knew he had already made up his mind. Please teach me the summon jutsu, come on please. Arashi laughed at Naruto's antics before he became serious. Okay, I'll teach you, but this summon jutsu is different. Naruto was confused. How is it different? Arashi chuckled at the look on Naruto's face but answered him. Well, the first thing is that you won't even be able to see the summon. And the second thing is that there is only one summon, which means that even if you used all your chakra and your tenant's chakra you would still get the same result, so only use the required amount of chakra, got it? Naruto looked like he was about to explode when all of a sudden all that could be heard was, "What? What do you mean I won't be able to see it? How will I even know it's there?" Trust me, Arashi said, you'll know when it appears. Now watch closely as I do the correct seals. Bird, dragon, tiger, and ram, that's what the seals are, okay. When Naruto nodded, the former Yondaime continued. Last thing. There's only one summon, but if you use more chakra it'll be more powerful, but I only use it without adding excess chakra because it is extremely powerful, got it? Got it, Naruto replied. Could I try using the jutsu now? Arashi looked at him like he was crazy. Will you hold on for a minute? You don't even have the summoning scroll. Without it you'd be wasting chakra. I use the word chakra way too much. I'm going to summon him, and if he's in a good mood he'll give you the scroll. Well, here goes. The Yondaime went through the seals and shouted hidden summon. Revealing of the scroll, instantly everything turned dark. You know, like in the anime when the second Hokage used the infinite darkness genjutsu on the third Hokage when Sarutobi was fighting Orochimaru. The darkness surrounded them and a few seconds later a scroll came out of nowhere and landed at Arashi's feet. Here, Arashi said as he gave the scroll to Naruto, sign your name in your own blood. Naruto did as he was told and unrolled the scroll. He was going to sneak a peek at the other names inside when he noticed that they were blurry so you couldn't read them. Why can't I see the names on here, and why is there only 2 names? Naruto asked Arashi. I don't know. Arashi answered, it was like that when I signed it, and I also don't know why there's not a bunch of names on it. There was only one name on the scroll before I found it and signed it myself. It was only then that Naruto realized he didn't know his sensei's name. So he decided to ask, what is your name? I mean, you know mine but I don't know yours, so tell me. The hooded man tensed before he shrugged. It's Arashi, that's all you need to know. The Kyuubi container smiled at him, thanks, and I'm done signing the contract. Now I just have to do the summon and train with it. Don't worry about it, Arashi told him, you'll already know all his moves. Naruto was confused. But how is that possible? I haven't even tried to summon him yet. Arashi looked at him with a pitying look. Well, let's just say tomorrow you'll have an extremely painful headache. Naruto looked scared, or it could happen during your sleep and you wouldn't feel a thing. And with that Arashi dismissed the summon and said, well, let's not waste time standing around. Come at me with everything you have. They both got into their fighting stance and charged. 2 months later, Arashi had trained Naruto to the extremes, and now with the Chunin exams 2 weeks away he couldn't wait to show everyone what he had learned. Naruto was feeling happy. Not only did he have another person that cared for him, but he hadn't seen Sasuke, Pinky, or Cyclops for 2 whole months. But being happy didn't stop him from feeling the effects of his training. 3 weeks ago during their training session 4, Anbu had surrounded Arashi and told him that the Hokage had wanted to speak with him. An hour later Arashi returned and said that starting tomorrow they'd have to take their training to the next level. Needless to say, it showed, if his hardened muscles and his small fan club had anything to say about it. After the training session had ended, Arashi said he had urgent business somewhere and would be gone for a month. And since he would be gone, he regrettably wouldn't be able to see Naruto when he passed the exams. Doesn't mean he will. A week had passed since Arashi had left and Naruto was bored. So he went out and decided to get some ramen, but before he reached the Ichiraku's he heard a noise. It was the sound of a child screaming. Naruto ran towards the screaming as fast he could. He hopped up on the fence and observed the scene in front of him. There was two people in front of him. One was a blonde-haired girl carrying a giant fan. She seemed to be in a conversation with the other stranger. The stranger was wearing makeup on his face and had what Naruto assumed was a weapon, bandaged and placed on his back. He was also holding Konohamaru in his left hand. Let go of Konohamaru right now, you meanie. Naruto looked over to the left and saw Moegi, Udon, Sakura, and Sasuke. Moegi was shouting at the stranger, telling no, demanding him to put Konohamaru down this instant. On the other hand, Udon was on the ground shaking. Sakura was looking worried but trying to apologize to the two ninja about what happened, and Sasuke was in a fighting stance and was more than willing to show off his skills. From the emblem on their headband, Naruto guessed that they were sand ninja here for the Chunin exams. He decided to get closer and listen to the ninja's conversation. Kankuro, stop, just put him down, we're supposed to be looking around the village. So the makeup mon's name is Kankuro, Naruto thought. At least the blonde had some sense. No, Temari, I'll show them that they shouldn't run into others. Kankuro pulled the thing off his back and was starting to unwrap, saw that this was his chance and leapt off the tree. He rushed at Kankuro and kicked him in the face faster than anyone could see. Kankuro flew back and collided with a pole. Temari looked at her brother's crumpled form before she looked at Naruto, shock written all over her face. Her mind was racing. Wow, he's cute and he's fast, I didn't even see him coming. Wonder what his name is. And the last thought was it was Kankuro's fault, so I guess he got what he deserved. Sasuke was trying to act like he didn't care. But on the inside he was furious as to how the Dobi could be stronger than him, the great Uchiha. He was going to say something but the blonde-haired boy spoke first. Temari, was it? When she nodded, he continued. You should tell your brother to not mess around with women's accessories. Temari had to hide her laughter. No one had said that before. Also tell him that he shouldn't pick on people smaller than him. Naruto was about to walk away when he remembered what she had said. And if you taking a tour around the village, I could be your guide. If Naruto was facing her, he would have seen Temari's face turn red. For some reason Temari had a feeling that she'd regret this sooner or later, but decided against it. Okay, she said. I don't see why not. They were about to walk away when a figure materialized on the tree above them. He had red hair, dark rings around his eyes, and a big gourd on his back carrying Kami knows what. But the most weird thing about him was that even though he looked like psycho serial killer, he had the kanji for love on his forehead in bright red. Naruto looked at Temari and saw that she was shaking slightly. He was about to ask her what was wrong with her when the red-haired boy spoke up first. I am sorry for the way Kankuro acted. He is a disgrace to our village. He looked at the puppet master with distaste, and the next time he tries something like that, I'll kill him myself. The Kyuubi container was unsure how to react. That isn't necessary, but then again he did attack the honorable grandson, and he could have started a war. The red-haired boy nodded, then replied, I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. Suddenly sand came out of nowhere and surrounded Kankuro, who was picking himself up off the ground using the pole for support. Behind Naruto, someone gasped. He turned around and saw Sakura with her hand on her mouth, and Sasuke gaping at the Sandman. Yeah, that's my nickname for him. Naruto didn't see Konohamaru and his group anywhere, so he guessed that they ran away. He couldn't blame them, they were only little kids. He looked back at the Psycho Kid and saw that his sand was holding Kankuro in a death grip and was slowly squeezing the life out of him. The red-haired boy was about to finish off Makeup Boy when Naruto decided that Kankuro had learned his lesson and didn't deserve to be killed yet. Okay, stop, that's enough. You don't need to kill him. The sand stopped and the boy thought about it for a minute before nodding. You're right, even though he's useless, I need him for the exams. The boy walked away, then he stopped and said, What's your name? The fox boy was about to reply when his teammate with the broom stuck up his butt. We all know which one that is, said Sasu. He didn't get to finish because the sand ninja cut him off. I don't care about you. I was talking to him, he said, pointing to Naruto. Sasuke scowled but didn't say anything. Naruto smirked at Sasuke before replying, Naruto Uzumaki, what about you? I am Sabaku no Gara. The sand ninja replied. I must go, but we will meet again during the Chunin exams. Then suddenly sand covered his whole body and he was gone. Naruto looked at Temari and saw that she was still shaking, so he put his hand on her forehead. Naruto saw her turn red, so he asked, "Are you okay? You're red and you're burning up. Are you sure you have enough energy for me to show you around?" Temari looked at Naruto angrily. "I'm fine, so will you please take your hand off my head?" Naruto scratched the back of his head. "Ah, sorry. Well, shall we leave?" "Yeah, let's go," Temari replied. And with that they walked off, leaving Sasuke and Sakura standing there gaping stupidly in their direction. Naruto began to point out important sights while Temari listened. "There's Ichiraku's, they make the best ramen in the world." Naruto's apartment. Naruto sighed as he stepped in his apartment and locked the door. It was 12:17 and Naruto was beat. He had showed Temari the entire village of Konoha, then he showed her his spot on top of the Yondaime's head. Then they had talked for hours and hours. Till some man wearing standard Chunin uniform but with a cloth covering half of his head showed up and told Temari she needed to come to the hotel because they, including Kankuro and Gaara, needed to discuss their strategies for the Chunin exams. So they had said their goodbyes and departed. He couldn't wait for the Chunin exams even though it was only 3 days away. With that thought in mind he went to sleep, not even knowing the fight he would get in tomorrow. Naruto woke up at 11 o'clock. He decided to sleep late seeing as his sensei was and would be for a month didn't have training. He took a shower, ate breakfast, got dressed and was out the door in 10 minutes flat. The Kyuubi container decided to go train on his team's training ground. When he got there he saw Sasuke practicing his fire jutsus and Sakura learning to dispel genjutsus with the help of Kakashi. Ignoring the looks his former team gave him, he walked up and started practicing his taijutsu. He had only been there for 5 minutes before Sasuke interrupted his training. "Fight me." Naruto stopped and looked at Sasuke as if he was stupid. "And why should I waste my time with you?" Sasuke looked furious. "Figures you'd say something like that because you're scared to fight." "Fine." That was all Naruto said before he got into his fighting stance. Sasuke rushed at Naruto and punched him in the stomach. He smirked. Seems the Dobi hadn't improved in any way at all. When poof, Naruto's body turned into smoke. Sasuke quickly turned around only to have his face introduced to Naruto's boot. Growling, the Uchiha got up only to be kicked to the ground again. Naruto was doing the seals for the new jutsu that Arashi taught him, but he was stopped by Kakashi. "That's enough, both of you." The copy ninja then walked over and helped Sasuke to his feet. They both glared at Naruto before joining Sakura, who was glaring at him as well. "Okay team, that's enough training for today." Naruto looked at them walk away before he returned to his training. He was just hoping he would get the chance to fight Sasuke in the exams. 2 days later. Naruto sighed as he finished eating. Today was the day that the Chunin's exams started. Naruto looked at the clock. It read 11:45. He almost choked on his ramen. The exams started at 12 o'clock. He hurriedly finished his food, put on his gloves and trenchcoat and walked out the door. He looked at the people that called him names. "They're so pathetic," he thought. "Without me they'd all be dead because of the stupid fox." When he said that, his head started hurting. Ignoring the pain in his head, he ran towards his team. There was silence as they walked towards the place where the exams were to be held. Naruto wondered if he would see Temari there. She had been on his mind ever since he met her. He was glad to have a friend his age. Naruto was snapped out of his thoughts when he realized Kakashi was talking to him. Sorry, what did you say, Kakashi?" said Ninja sighed. "I said where's your friend with attitude problem?" "And he's talking about Arashi. He's had to go on a mission," said Naruto, "and he'll be gone for a month." He could have sworn Kakashi smirked at him but decided to forget right now because they had walked inside. He could see other teams in a line waiting to get in. He smiled. It was time for the Chunin exams to be. Naruto heard people shouting and walked up to see some unimportant genin teams shouting at some Chunin to let them through to 301. Sakura was about to tell them that they're only on floor 201, but Naruto put his hand in front of her. Sakura looked at Naruto confused. Sighing, Naruto answered her. "It's a test to weed out weak genin. We'd be fighting useless battles if they were here." Sakura didn't say anything. He knew that she understood. 15 minutes later, most of the teams had left. Signaling to Sasuke and Sakura, Naruto walked over to the two Chunin and pushed them aside, ignoring their threats of battle. He kept walking even when he heard them charge. They both leapt into the air intent on punishing him for pushing them aside. Naruto stopped but stood there with his hands in the pocket of his trench coat. They were about to hit him when a bandaged hand came out, caught both of their legs. Bushy brows appeared out of nowhere and stopped their attacks. Not wanting or caring about what happened next, Naruto just kept walking with Sasuke and Sakura following him. They had only been walking only for a few seconds when again they were stopped. "Hey you, what's your name?" Naruto looked at Neji and was relieved when he saw that he was talking to Sasuke. Sasuke looked over at Neji with a smirk. "I'm not obliged to answer." And with that, Sasuke walked off with Sakura following. Team 7 came to a clearing in front of the exam building when again they were stopped. Rock Lee leapt off of the balcony and onto the floor. Then he declared his love for Sakura and started shooting hearts at her, which she dodged. And I thought that scene was gay. Throwing his hands up and sighing, Naruto left his teammates there to deal with the spandex-wearing maniac, who was now preparing to fight Sasuke. The Kyuubi container walked inside the building to see Kakashi standing there blocking the doorway. "Hey Naruto, where's the rest of your team? I can't let you go inside if you're by yourself." Naruto scoffed. "Sasuke and Sakura are back there with some freak in a spandex suit." When he said that, Kakashi ran off swearing that he would save Sasuke and Sakura from his rival and his student. Ignoring this, Naruto walked in and saw that there must have been 100 or more people there to take the exams. And he saw that they were all staring at him. "What are all you losers looking at?" Naruto asked. Most of them kept staring, but some of them turned away. "Hey Naruto, shut up will ya?" said Ninja, inwardly groaned when he turned around and saw Team 8 and Team 10 standing there. Before he could reply, Sasuke and Sakura came in. Then Ino grabbed Sasuke's arm and started talking to him. Sakura interfered and she and Ino started bickering over who was Sasuke's girlfriend. Shikamaru was muttering something about troublesome girls, and Choji and Shino were arguing about a dumb bug on the floor. Then some boy that was much older than them told them to pipe down because they already quite an impression. Hearing this, the rookie 9 minus Naruto looked around to see that everyone was staring at them. The boy then said that his name was Kabuto and that they didn't want to get on anyone's bad side. Kabuto then said that he'd taken the exam 7 times, so he knew how bad it was because everyone was on edge. A few minutes later, Kabuto pulled out a deck of cards and told the rookie 9 that he had info on hundreds of ninjas. Sasuke, who was closest to him, asked if Kabuto would show him info on some ninjas. Naruto was barely listening, but he heard the names of the ninjas that Sasuke wanted to know about. Sasuke was excited that he would get the stats and skills of the ninjas that he would beat. There's Rock Lee of the Leaf, Gaara of the Desert, and Naruto Uzumaki of the Leaf. When Sasuke said that, Naruto almost exploded because of Sasuke's ego. "Hey Sasuke, I don't know why you want to get info on me or Gaara because we don't care about you. I don't know about Gaara, but I know that I don't feel like wasting my time with you. Not everybody wants to fight a baby Uchiha, that's probably a homo." Laughter could be heard from every corner of the room. Smiling, Naruto continued, "The world doesn't revolve around you, Sasuke. Besides, I'm on your team. What could you possibly want to know about me that you don't already know? Stop being so nosy." Instantly, Sakura and Ino ran over to him and started shouting at him to apologize to Sasuke right now. Sasuke, on the other hand, tried to keep his cool but was failing. So the Uchiha decided to ignore everyone except Kabuto. Little did everyone know, Gaara was secretly agreeing WTH Naruto in his sick, twisted mind. Back to Sasuke. "Show them to me," Sasuke demanded. The silver-haired ninja sighed but gave them to Sasuke. Rock Lee, 54D ranked missions, 3C ranked missions. Can't do any genjutsu or ninjutsu but is outstanding in taijutsu. His teammates are Neji, Hyuga and Tenten. Naruto had to bite his tongue to hold his laughter. What kind of name is Tenten, he wondered. Kabuto went on, "Next is Gaara of the Desert. 14D ranked missions, 5C ranked missions and 1A ranked mission." The funny thing is that Gaara didn't even have a scratch on him. Everyone was stunned, including Naruto, who had an eyebrow raised. That is interesting, he thought. Kabuto continued, "His skills aren't known, however he defeats his enemies I don't know. Gaara's teammates are his siblings Sabaku no Temari, and Sabaku no Kankuro." Now Naruto was shocked. He looked in every direction for Temari, who had slumped in her seat. Naruto stopped when Kabuto started talking about him. Finally, Naruto Uzumaki of the Leaf. 27D rank missions, 2C rank missions, and 1A rank mission. His skills were above average, but now I don't know. Seeing the confused look on everyone's face, he decided to explain. It says that he recently got a new sensei and now I don't know anything about his true skills. Kabuto looked at Naruto and said, I don't have any data on your sensei whatsoever. I don't know his skills or anything about him. I don't even know his name. Naruto laughed and told Kabuto, you never will, so you might as well forget about trying. Before anyone could ask him any questions, smoke appeared. Alright maggots, listen up. Suddenly a man appeared wearing a standard Chunin uniform but with a black trench coat covering it up. He also had a bandana on like Naruto. The man kept talking but Naruto wasn't listening. That loser, Naruto thought, how dare he take my appearance. He even has the same trench coat as me and the same type of bandana. My name is Morino Ibiki and I'll be your proctor for the first exam, which is a written one for those who don't know. Now everyone please select a number and then go inside the room and sit at the designated seat. 10 minutes later everyone had a number and was seated. Naruto was busy thinking about the test that he didn't notice someone sit down beside him. Hey Naruto. The person said. Naruto looked over at the person sitting beside him and gasped. Temari, how have you been? She smiled at him warmly. I'm good, how about you? Naruto smiled back at her. I'm fine, so what do you think about this exam? Temari thought about his question before answering. I think it'll be easy, just like every other challenge I'm faced with. Naruto laughed. Yeah, you're right. These weaklings can't stand against us. The both of them kept talking, completely ignoring everyone's stares and complaints that they couldn't hear the proctor explain the rules. 5 minutes later they were whispering to each other despite the fact that they were taking the test. Naruto asked the Sand Kunoichi how her teammates would pass the exam. Well, Kankuro might use Raven, you know, the puppet on his back? When Naruto nodded, she continued. And Gaara will probably use the opening of the third eye technique. Then she explained to him how it worked. Temari then asked him how his teammates would pass. It's simple, Sasuke will without a doubt use his stupid Sharingan, and as for Sakura, let's just say that her head's big for a reason. Temari tried to get her laughter under control. Ibiki's voice interrupted their conversation. It's now time for the 10th and final question. I'm going to skip the rules. Instantly a huge chorus of I'm out or I give ups were heard. When no one said anything, he continued. Well done, you all pass. Before anyone could ask any questions, a woman came through the window and gracefully landed on the floor. Hello everyone, my name is Anko Mitarashi and the proctor for the second exam. Temari heard someone gulp and she looked at Naruto and saw him shaking. Before she could say anything, Anko started talking. Wow, so many teams are you getting, soft Ibiki? Then they started bickering over how many teams were left and how early Anko was. Temari used this opportunity to ask Naruto what was wrong. Naruto, what's wrong with you? He looked at her and shakily replied, it's just that that lady is a sadist and thrives on others' pain. Temari looked back at Anko shocked. Anko decided that the argument was over and shouted, alright everyone, follow me to the second part of the exam. 15 minutes later everyone was in front of training ground 44. Anko decided to tell them that the real name of this forest was the Forest of Death. Naruto scoffed. Yeah right, he muttered to no one in particular. Anko hearing this threw a kunai at him. Naruto could have dodged it but decided to let it graze his cheek. Anko popped up behind him and licked the blood off his face. She thought that he'd be scared but actually he was smiling. You like this, don't you, Naruto? When he didn't say anything, she licked his cheek again, this time real slow. What's wrong, Naruto? Naruto decided to answer her question. Actually, I was just going to warn you that you might have AIDS. When she looked confused, he sighed before continuing. Oh come on, you've licked hundreds of people's blood and it's in your system. How do you know that one of those people didn't have AIDS? Anko didn't say anything. She was shocked, she hadn't even thought about it. Anko decided that after the Genins went in the forest she'd go get a blood test. Forest of Death. 20 minutes later all the teams were in the FOD looking for scrolls. Team 7 had been given a Heaven Scroll and now they were trying to find an Earth Scroll. They had stopped in a clearing when Naruto went to take a leak. He had to go at least 245 yards away before he saw a bush. When he got back he saw Sasuke and Sakura frozen and some pale snake man standing there with an ugly smirk on his face. Naruto decided to watch and see how well his teammates would fare without him. Needless to say, it didn't go well at all, so Naruto decided to step in and help. After doing some hand seals, Naruto shouted hidden summon. Suddenly darkness consumed everything in sight. Naruto pointed to the snake man and said, "Take him down." Naruto again looked at the snake man and saw that he was about to bite Sasuke on the neck. Right when the pale man's teeth entered Sasuke's neck, a huge dark blue arm came out and grabbed the snake man. He didn't even have a chance to scream as all his bones were instantly crushed. Sasuke. Out of the corner of his eye, Naruto saw Sakura running towards Sasuke as fast as she could. Dismissing the summon, Naruto walked over to Sasuke's body. Sakura was crying her heart out for Sasuke, who wasn't in a position to listen to anything. If he was, he would have covered his ears. Without warning, a strange seal appeared on the Uchiha's neck. Naruto told himself to ask about it later. After signaling to Sakura that they needed to get somewhere safe, he put Sasuke on his back. Minutes later they found a small cave where he put Sasuke down. Seeing as he was the only one uninjured and he had barely used chakra, he would have to protect the others even if he didn't want to, and he really didn't want to. Naruto decided it would be best on Sakura and Sasuke if they both slept, so he used a sleeping jutsu on Sakura. He looked around at all the branches and trees, and suddenly he had the urge to cut everything in sight. After deciding that he would get a weapon when he got out of this forest, Naruto set up some traps. It wasn't long before he heard one of them go off, then someone howl in pain. Seconds later 3 figures dropped down surrounding Naruto. Naruto got a look at each of them. On his left there was a genin with a stupid smirk on his face and a hole in both of his hands. On his right was even weirder genin. This one had his arms out of his sleeves, bandages covering his whole face except his left eye, and he had some metal object on his arm. And in front of him was a girl with an blade in her right foot, black hair covered by a strange hood-like thing. She seemed to be the most unremarkable one of the 3 of them. All 3 of them were sporting a purple and black scarf, and a headband with a musical note on it. The bandaged one spoke first. "Give us the scroll or you'll be in extreme pain. Of course we also have to pay you back for her foot," he said, gesturing to the girl who had pulled the blade out. Naruto wanted to laugh. You know, this is the classic movie scenario. 2 people on either side of me just means I could do this. Naruto jumped and did a split KCK that hit both of the male genins in the chin, then he slugged the girl genin in the jaw. Naruto decided not to waste any time. He went straight after the bandaged one with a barrage of kicks and punches that the zombie-like teen couldn't dodge. The boy flew back and crashed into a tree and some thorns that stabbed him in the back. Meanwhile Naruto was launching attack after attack at the girl. She kept dodging them even with the pain coming from right foot. Right when he was about to punch her, he heard the other one shout, "Air slicing blast." Naruto didn't know what had hit him till it was too late. He was blown through the air like a rag doll. Slowly he got up only to get kicked in the gut from the zombie genin. Naruto was reeling in pain. He needed a distraction so that he could unleash his new move that his sensei taught him. As if on cue, a green blur went by him and hit the bandaged genin in the chest hard. His body was racing and crashed into a tree headfirst. There was a crunching sound shortly after, signaling that the genin was dead. The blur stopped beside Naruto and offered him his hand, which Naruto gladly took. "Hello Naruto-kun, need a hand?" Lee said while smiling brightly. "Sure," Naruto replied. "I guess you could handle one of them." Lee looked at both of them and said, "Neither of them looked that strong." Naruto agreed with him, but they still had to be taken care of. "I'll tell you what." Lee stared, waiting for what he was going to say. "You can handle the guy and I'll take the girl, all right?" Lee showed his pearly whites. "Yes, I'll show them the power of youth." Naruto laughed and charged at the girl who was trying to keep him away by throwing senbon at him. He got closer and ducked her kick. He then reached out, grabbed her leg. Then using the momentum he swung her around before slamming her violently on the ground. Naruto then grabbed her by the neck and spun around and slammed her into the tree. The crack he heard was probably her back, which was now broken. Naruto heard a grunt and saw the last genin get hit with 5 punches followed by a roundhouse kick. The boy got up angrily and this time pointed both his arms at Lee and shouted, "Air slicing blast." The result was devastating. The area around Lee exploded, and when the smoke cleared, the taijutsu specialist was unconscious. The stupid genin started laughing and Naruto used that time to mold chakra in his hand, the result a blue orb. He ran at the genin and shouted Rasengan. The genin turned, but it was too late. He got a face full of Rasengan. Naruto walked over to the dead body and checked the symbol on the scroll. When it said Earth, he pocketed the scroll. Naruto then walked over to Lee and was to wake him when he heard a voice behind him. "It's okay, I'll handle him from here." Naruto turned and saw Tenten standing there looking at Lee with a mix of worry, anger, and relief. Naruto simply nodded and told her, "Tell him I said thanks." Tenten nodded and picked Lee up. She smiled at him before leaping back in at the trees. Naruto strolled over to where his teammates were laying, woke Sakura up. She looked at him, then at Sasuke. When she saw him she was about to break down. "It's alright," Naruto told her, "he's gonna be okay." Sakura didn't say anything, she just got up and walked out of the cave. Naruto ungracefully picked Sasuke up and, accidentally, bumped Sasuke's head into the wall. When he walked outside he signaled Sakura to follow him. About 3 hours later they reached the tower. When they entered the tower there was only one team there. Sasuke kept walking with Sakura following him, but Naruto walked over to the other team. It was the Suna team. Naruto smiled and waved at Temari, who did the same. Then he nodded to Gaara, who just gave him a psychotic smile. And then finally he glared at Kankuro, who did the same. Temari walked over to him and the two of them started chatting about the FOD and who they fought, what scroll they got, etc. 4 uneventful days later it was finally time for the third and final exam. After the Hokage told everyone what the true purpose of the Chunin exams was, a ninja by the name of Hayate Gecko proceeded to tell everyone that they were too many teams and because of that they would have to hold a preliminary round. After everyone stopped complaining and moved up to the balcony, the first match was announced. Sasuke Uchiha vs Syoshihidiri. Sasuke smirked and jumped down off the balcony, winced because of the pain in his neck. Syoshi was an average person, he was wearing a standard ninja uniform minus a vest. Hayate looked at both competitors and said, "Begin." They both charged at each other and attacked. Sasuke wanted to finish this quickly, so he used a copy of Lee's taijutsu. To distract Syoshi, Sasuke did some hand seals and shouted, "Fire element! Phoenix fire jutsu!" Syoshi dodged it, but when he looked up he got hit by Sasuke and was launched into the air. Then Sasuke did Lion's Barrage on him and Syoshi lost. "I'm going to skip the rest of the fights, I know you hate me but sorry." Kabuto Yakoshi, don't remember his last name, versus Kiba. Winner Kabuto Temari vs Ten. Winner Temari Shino vs Chouji. Winner Shino Ino vs Lily. Winner Ino x Kankuro. Winner Kabuto x Hinata vs Neji. Winner Neji x Shikamaru vs Clive. Winner Shikamaru x. Next match is special and ends bad. Naruto vs Sakura. Ahahahahahahaha. Sakura gulped and looked at Naruto only to see that he was already on the floor stretching. After assuring herself that Naruto wouldn't hurt her since he liked her, she walked down to the arena. "Begin." As soon as the word was spoken, Naruto charged and hit a totally unprepared Sakura in the face, followed by a kick to the stomach. Everyone was shocked, they all thought that Naruto and Sakura were friends. Sakura got up and made 3 clones, all 4 of them threw shuriken at Naruto, who simply moved out of the way. "Oh, so she wants to play with clones," Naruto thought, "I'll give her clones." Naruto did a cross and shouted Shadow Clone Jutsu. 4 Naruto clones appeared and rushed at Sakura, who was confused on which one to attack first. Too late, 2 of the clones and punched her in both sides her face. Then the other 2 clones came and swept her legs out from under her. Sakura suddenly felt herself falling forward violently. Then Naruto's hand was on the back of her head, slamming her head into the floor. Sakura was laying on the ground bleeding and Naruto didn't care one bit. He was going to make her pay dearly. After doing some hand seals he shouted, "Fire style. Basic fireball." The fireball hit Sakura on the head and in a matter of seconds had burned all of her hair off. "I give up," Sakura screamed. Winner Naruto x Rock Lee vs Tony. Winner Rock Lee. Gaara vs Shinji. Winner Gaara. Automatic pass. My ex Naruto was happy that he and Temari passed. The Hokage then told everyone to pick a number and say it out loud. 1, Naruto said. 2, Shino said. 3, Ino said. 4, Shikamaru said lazily. 5, Mai said. 6, Neji replied. 7, Temari said. 8, Kabuto said. 9, said Gaara. 10, Kankuro replied. 11, Rock Lee shouted. So that leaves Sasuke with 12. The Hokage said, Alright, I've decided to do things differently this year. Everyone looked shocked. This year we will have 2-on-2 matches. Come and see who your partner will be. Everyone looked at the huge board that had been brought out. Match 1 Shino and Shikamaru versus Ino and Mai. Match 2 Naruto and Temari versus Kabuto and Kankuro. Match 3 Sasuke and Neji versus Gaara and Rock Lee. There was stunned silence as everyone looked at the board, then they all passed a glance at their partners. Naruto nodded at Temari, who returned the gesture. It was then that Sarutobi decided to tell them about the other rule. Listen up, everyone stopped looking at their comrades and focused their undivided attention on the Hokage. Now you all not going to like this, but it's the other rule. If you win, you'll have to fight your partner in battle. Example, if Ino and Mai won their match, then they'd have to fight each other later on. Naruto again looked at Temari and saw that she was staring at him with a look of concern and seriousness. He looked in her eyes and they both secretly made an agreement that if they won and had to fight each other, then they would try their best. The Hokage looked at them all. The finals take place in a month, be there or you'll be disqualified. That is all, dismissed. Naruto turned and left. He had a lot to think about. He just wished Arashi was here. In the cell under the Hokage tower, Kuza lay there thinking about the man that had saved the demon boy. How he hated the two of them for just being alive. The first thing that he would do when he got out of this prison would be killing that stupid man and Naruto Uzumaki. In the weapons store, Naruto sneezed, and in some dark ruins on another country, Arashi did the same. Magdar ruins Monday, Arashi had found what he was looking for in the remains of his old home and was now on his way back to Konoha. Arashi wondered why he had become the fourth Hokage after they had destroyed his home. Now the only reason he stayed in Konoha was Naruto. He couldn't leave Naruto in that crappy village. Arashi took a good look at the remains of his home before he turned around and made his way toward Konoha. Konoha Wednesday. Naruto sighed for the third time in 5 minutes. He had been in the store for 20 minutes, and the owner still hadn't come back with his weapon. It's been 3 days since Naruto had found out that he'd be on Temari's team, and he was grateful for that. Sure, he would have to fight her, but actually he was looking forward to it. He wondered how Arashi was doing and where he was at and said his name out loud, Arashi. He heard someone gasp on the other side of the curtain. Then a tall, white-haired figure entered and laid his eyes on Naruto. Do you want to repeat what you just said? Naruto could tell that it wasn't a question, it was a command, but he shook his head and replied, no, that's okay. The man stared at him for a minute before turning around and accidentally knocked his bandana off. Hey, Naruto exclaimed. The man turned around trying to act confused, but he blew when his eyes instantly darted to Naruto's hair. It's just like Arashi's hair. The old man thought, same color, same spiky style, and he looks exactly like him except for the whisker marks on his back. Oh my god, that's the Kyuubi vessel. The old man thought. He decided to take a different approach. Do you even know who Arashi was? He asked Naruto. Said boy looked at him stupidly for a moment before he replied. What do you mean was? I know who he is. The weird old guy closed his eyes and asked, okay Shrimp, who is he? Naruto wanted to punch this guy in the face 20 times. How dare this stupid looking man call him Shrimp? FYI, Arashi is my sensei. And a super strong ninja that could easily destroy you. Naruto shouted. The old man ran a hand through his white hair. What do you mean he's your sensei? He asked. Arashi has been dead for 14 years. Seeing Naruto's shocked look, he continued. Arashi he died after sealing the Kyuubi in U.B. But that's not possible, Naruto said in a shaky voice. I swear on my life that Arashi is my sensei. And he stopped there. A memory flashed through his head of when he and Arashi were eating ramen at Ichiraku's. It's what Arashi had said that made the memory stick with him. Hey Naruto. Naruto stopped eating and looked at him curiously. If anyone ever comes around asking for me, just act normal until you see a chance to get out of there, alright? Seeing Naruto's look, he went on. I have a lot of enemies, Arashi said. Especially in Kumo and Earth Country, he muttered. So be careful, okay? Don't do anything stupid. Naruto shook his head because he realized he was moving. Well, moving wouldn't be the right word. He was being dragged by the weird old guy to what looked like the tower. Ah! Naruto screamed. You're a pervert, aren't you? And now you're taking me to the house where you play with boys, aren't you? The old man looked at him like he was an idiot. What, I'm not a pervert, you stupid brat, I'm taking you to the Hokage to sort this out. Then after 5 minutes of senseless name-calling they arrived in the Hokage's office where Anko Mitarashi was talking with Sarutobi when the door broke down and in came the old man dragging a screaming Naruto. The Hokage looked up surprised but then broke out into a smile when he saw the old man. "Ah, Jiraiya, welcome back to Konoha, what brings you here?" Jiraiya, after telling Naruto to pipe down, smiled at Sarutobi. "Well, I was on my way here to deliver the next Icha book, and tell you about Orochimaru." Naruto looked up sharply and said, "Orochimaru? You know him?" Jiraiya sarcastically replied, No, I don't know him, I just said some name I've never heard of." Then Jiraiya asked, "What do you know about Orochimaru anyway?" Naruto shrugged. Nothing except that I broke every bone in his body, and he's probably dead." "What?" Anko exclaimed, "did you really fight that snake bastard?" "Yep," Naruto replied, "I beat him with one move." Everyone looked shocked but Naruto looked bored. "What, I learned it when I was training." Jiraiya shook his head and turned back to Sarutobi and Anko. "That's why I'm here, because Naruto insists that his trainer is Arashi." 2 sharp intakes of breath were heard from Anko and Sarutobi. Naruto noticed that Anko looked like she was about to cry. The Sandaime grabbed Jiraiya by the arm and whispered, "You know that you can't mention that name around her, she still grieves for her late husband." Ha, nobody was expecting that, I hope." Jiraiya looked at Anko sadly and said, "We all miss him but she has to move on." "So you're saying that you don't think about him at all?" Sarutobi countered. Jiraiya didn't say anything for a minute before he heard Anko shouting at Naruto. "How dare you lie on him, you brat!" Slap. Both Sarutobi and Jiraiya winced as they looked at Naruto's face and saw a red print of a hand on Naruto's left cheek. Anko lifted her other hand to slap him again when he caught it. Anko tried to break free but Naruto squeezed even tighter. She looked at him and froze. If you looked at him you would see that his sapphire eyes were replaced with fiery red color with a slit going down the middle. When he spoke he had the Kyuubi's voice mixed in with his own. "Now listen here, you crazy bimbo. I'm not taking any more of your or anyone's crap. If you ever touch me again I'll rip your hands off, got it?" Anko, Jiraiya, and Sarutobi were shocked. They had never heard Naruto talk like this. Anko's shock wore off quickly as she brought her other hand around to pooch Naruto, but this time another hand caught hers. "I wouldn't move another muscle if I were you," an icy voice said. Naruto turned around and almost screamed. Arashi was back. He put his free hand on Naruto's shoulder. "Hey Naruto," he said softly, "now what did you do to get in this mess?" Naruto smiled at him. "Well, I was going to get my weapon from the blacksmith when—" "Oh my god!" Naruto screamed. "I forgot to get my weapon. I bet someone took it. I have to go see." Arashi let go of Anko's hand, who looked up at him angrily and was about to say something when Arashi said, "Let's go." Poof, both Naruto and Arashi disappeared right in front of their eyes. There was only silence as Sarutobi, Jiraiya, and Anko just stared at each other wondering what just happened. Outside blacksmith's shop, Naruto ran into the shop and saw his weapon wrapped up in a silky red cloth. He walked over to it and noticed that there was a note attached to it. "Dear Naruto, sorry it took me so long. Right when I was about to bring your order to you I heard that there was a new ICHA book and I rushed to the bookstore as fast as I could. Well, here it is, your special weapon that nobody but you will own. I worked all week and even added a bonus just because I'm a nice guy. If you put your and someone else's chakra in the blades, then both of the chakras will mix and the results will be devastating. And you know I just love destruction and chaos. Come and visit sometime, okay? Sincerely, Kenji." That's interesting." Naruto spun around and saw Arashi reading the letter. Arashi looked over the letter one more time and gasped, "There's a new ICHA book out. Come on Naruto, we have to go get it before they're sold out." Arashi quickly walked down the street with Naruto following. On the way there Naruto thought about his conversation with Jiraiya, Anko, and Sarutobi. He decided he had to ask Arashi about their claims of him being dead. Arashi, can I ask you something?" The former Yondaime kept walking but gazed at Naruto curiously. "Sure, ask away." "Well, before you arrived at the tower, Jiraiya said that it was impossible for you to be my sensei because you died 14 years ago. After sealing the Kyuubi in me." That made Arashi stop. He sighed. He might as well tell Naruto the truth. I didn't die 14 years ago, but I did seal the Kyuubi in you. Naruto was stunned. He thought that he could trust this man who had become a father-like figure in his life. He backed up. All those feelings of hatred came rushing back in a flash. He looked at Arashi angrily. Do you know what my life was like because of that monster? And why me? Why didn't you choose a child who had a family that loved him? Instead you chose a child whose parents deserted him because he was a freak. Arashi looked down. I chose you because I couldn't use anyone else's child. I had to use my own. Naruto stepped back. He couldn't take any more. Without warning he vomited. Arashi hurried over to him but Naruto pushed him back. No, stay away from me. He turned around and ran as fast as he could towards the gates off Konoha, ignoring the tears overflowing from his eyes. Naruto just kept running despite everyone's shouts about his rudeness. Temari was walking down the street holding her groceries when she saw Naruto running in her direction. She lifted her hand to greet him but he went right her. She turned quickly and saw that he was a second thought. She dropped the groceries and ran after him, intent on finding what was wrong with him. Temari was worried that she wouldn't be able to catch up to him. He was way too fast. Naruto. She called out to him. Whether he heard or not she didn't know because he kept running. She tried again. Naruto, please stop. Luckily for her he did stop. Naruto turned and looked at her. Oh hey, Temari, didn't see you there. He wiped his eyes on the sleeve of his coat. Temari walked over to him and gripped his hands with hers. Tell me what's wrong, Naruto. He looked at her before he decided to tell her a part of the story. Well, if you didn't notice before, everyone in this village hates me because of something I couldn't control. Temari blinked at him. If you had nothing to do with it, then why do they hate you? Because, Naruto replied angrily, they're a bunch of stupid old fools. The sand ninja was shocked. Actually, she recalled overhearing local villagers talking about burning down Naruto's apartment while making him watch, then gutting him. Naruto continued, about 3 months ago I thought I had found someone that actually cared for me, but a few minutes ago I discovered that he's the person that made everyone hate me. Temari was silent. What could she say? And not only that, Naruto said bitterly, but he's been kicking back for the past 14 years while I was here suffering, and the worst part is that he's my father. Now that Temari hadn't been expecting, but if that's she felt, she couldn't even begin to image the pain Naruto must have felt. She squeezed his hands tighter and spoke softly, Naruto, I'll admit that I don't know what pain you must be going through, and I'm very sorry about who your father turned out to be, but I do know one thing. Oh, and what's that? Naruto asked. That there is someone that cares for you, very much. And who's that? Naruto replied. He was about to say something else when he felt a pair of arms go around his waist. He looked down and saw Temari hugging him with her head buried in his chest. I do, stupid. I care for you. Naruto slowly put his arms around her. But why? You've only known me for 2 weeks. I can't explain why because I don't know, but it's like I have a connection with you. Who knows? Naruto chuckled to himself before he let her go. He smiled at her. Thanks, Temari. Want to go get something to eat? Yeah, she replied. As long as it's not ramen. Okay. He replied sadly, I'll let you pick. With that they walked off, and the rest of the day Naruto forgot about his troubles. Arashi, however, did not. Ex-ally Arashi again cursed himself for screwing up his growing relationship with his son. If he had just kept his mouth shut and said that Jiraiya could have been talking about a different Arashi, then everything would have been okay. But really it wasn't his fault, it was the stupid villagers. If they could have honored his last wish, then none of THS would have ever happened. He was going to make them pay. But neither Arashi or Naruto could have guessed what was going to happen to them over the next few. Hokage-sama, there's been another murder. Sarutobi sighed. Already? There was a murder just 2 hours ago. Did you manage to catch the killer this time? The Chunin pulled a photo out of his pocket and handed it to the Sandame, who took it wearily. What he saw made him grab his heart. It was Kyaku, but his hood was down, and you could see his face clearly. The photo slipped his fingers and tears rolled down his eyes. The Chunin ran over to the Hokage. Hokage-sama, what's wrong? The Hokage acted as if he hadn't heard him. Tell Jiraiya, Kakashi, Kurenai, Asuma, Guy, and Anko to come to my office immediately. Hi, Hokage-sama. 3 minutes later, Guy and Asuma came in. 1 minute later Anko and Kurenai walked in and leaned on the wall. Kurenai looked over to the Hokage and saw that eyes were red, and she realized that he had been crying. 10 minutes passed before Jiraiya and Kakashi walked in, both holding ICHA books. They put them away and sat down in the chairs. Everyone looked at the elder Sarutobi patiently. Finally Sarutobi looked up and cleared his throat before speaking. You all know about the string of murders that have been occurring since the beginning of this week? When they all nodded, he continued. The most recent one that you all know about is the murder of my former teammate Kaharu that took place 2 hours ago. Well, about 20 minutes ago there was another murder. Kurenai gasped while Anko looked at him in confusion. What, already? We didn't even hear about it. Sarutobi nodded. I didn't want anybody to know, but now my ninjas have discovered the identity of the killer. Sarutobi sighed and said, I don't know if it's real or not, but it looks convincing. Sighing again, he picked up the photograph and placed it on the front of his desk so everyone could see it. The reactions were different. Kurenai just stood there gazing at the photograph, as did Guy. The cigarette fell out of Asuma's mouth and onto the ground, but he didn't even notice. Kakashi stared angrily at the photograph, wondering who had the idea to make this sickening joke. At first Anko started to cry, then she fainted. Jiraiya looked at the photo, then at Sarutobi, then back at the photo. It wasn't a fake, it was really him. Same blonde hair, same blue eyes, and the same light blue, gold-trimmed outfit. Arashi stood there looking at the person who took the photo while standing over the body of a dead Anbu member. But the thing that scared Jiraiya was the smile that Arashi had on his face. It was as if he was happy to be killing people. After waking Anko up, Sarutobi told them what their mission would be. Listen up, it doesn't matter if he's back from the dead, or it's some ninja in disguise, we need to capture him so we can interrogate him. So this is how it will go. Kakashi and Jiraiya are Team A. Anko and Kurenai are Team B. And Asuma and Guy are Team C. You can all work together to capture him or split up, just capture him. The Junins and Sanin were about to leave before the Sandaime stopped them. This is a SS-class mission. Be on your guard. They all left. Ex-prison Kuza was finally leaving. He was being escorted to door by some guards when he thought he heard footsteps. It wasn't till Kuza was outside that he realized that the Anbu weren't following him anymore. He looked back at the gate and saw that it was shut and the guards were nowhere to be found. Kuza wondered why they left him there when he heard a sound. As soon as he turned around, a blue orb made its way through his face, and his blood went in every direction. Kuza's last thought was that he couldn't get his revenge. His killer wiped the blood off his hand, turned around, and walked away, looking for his next victim. Week after Kuza's death, 2 weeks till Chunin exam finals. Naruto groaned as he laid down on his bed. He had been training since 10 a.m., and now the time was 7 p.m. He still had 1 hour left before he had dinner with the Sand Trio and their sensei. Temari had asked him yesterday and he had accepted without a second thought. Knock knock, someone was at his door. He might as well go see who it is. Naruto walked over to the door and opened it slowly. He looked at who was standing at the door and had to suppress a scream. Standing in front of the door was none other than his father. Naruto just stared at Arashi, who had his hood down. He looks just like me, he thought. Hey Naruto. Can I come in? Naruto thought about it for a minute before looking at the clock. He turned back to Arashi. You've got till 8, then I'm going to dinner. Arashi walked in and sat down on the bed and asked, Are you going with that kunoichi from the Sand Village? Naruto turned red and started mumbling something while Arashi, seeing the state Naruto was in, started laughing. Arashi stopped laughing and looked at Naruto and said, Be yourself, and most importantly don't say anything stupid. Naruto was puzzled. Don't say anything stupid? I don't get it. Well, Arashi replied, on my first date I said something I shouldn't have said and my reward was a big slap. Wow, Naruto said, thanks for the advice. Arashi nodded his head before turning serious. Naruto, listen. I'm sorry about not being here for you when you needed me, but that's going to change. Arashi was about to say something else when there was a knock at the door. Arashi put his hood back on as Naruto went to answer the door. When he opened it, Jiraiya and Kakashi were standing there with a grim look on their faces. They took a step toward Naruto when Arashi stepped in front of him. Can I help you gentlemen tonight? Yes you can, said Jiraiya. The old man wants to see you. As do we. Arashi looked at Naruto, who just nodded. Very well then, take me to him. Kakashi and Jiraiya each grabbed one of his arms and poofed away. Naruto sighed before looking at the clock and getting ready for dinner. Naruto was on his way to the restaurant where the dinner would be. He now wore the same thing as his sensei, but without could see the restaurant in his view, along with Gaara and Temari standing there. Over in the corner he saw Kankuro and Baki talking about something. "Kankuro, you know that the operation will start soon, right?" The puppet master just nodded, so Baki continued. "Well, Temari is growing too attached to that boy," he said, casting a glance at Naruto, who was over there talking to Temari. Yet somehow taunting Gaara at the same time. "When the operation starts she may become ineffective because she's thinking about him. I need you to do something to get rid of him from her life." Kankuro smirked. "Say no more, I got a two-step plan to make sure she hates him." Baki nodded and they both walked in the restaurant. Dinner was going well until Naruto felt something wrap around his arm. He looked at everyone to see if they noticed something and saw Kankuro barely containing his laughter. Naruto struggled to get his hand free but nothing worked. Suddenly his hand moved and started to get closer to Temari's inner thigh. He gasped as his hand touched her thigh and started to rub it, saw Temari stiffen and look at him. He tried to tell her but he didn't get the chance. "How could you?" she yelled. "I thought you loved me." Naruto winced. He hoped that he was dreaming. "I thought that you were different, but you're just like everyone else." She yelled at him, trying to get that one thing that males love and only females can give. "Goodbye, Naruto." With that she ran off, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to fall down her face. Naruto couldn't believe what happened. First Arashi, now this. "Thanks for the dinner," he mumbled before walking out of the restaurant in a daze. Kankuro looked over at Baki and smirked. Step 1 completed. It was 9:30. He had been home for 30 minutes. Naruto was sprawled out on his bed just thinking about what happened. There were 1,000 thoughts going through his head. He knew that it was Kankuro that had made him touch Temari, but why? Due to his depressed state he came up with a strange answer. She didn't want to see me anymore, so she asked her brother to help her get rid of me because she didn't want to tell me herself. He heard the Kyuubi agreeing with him. "Yes kid, she's just like everyone else. They use you when it's convenient for them, then they throw you away like yesterday's garbage." The Kyuubi smiled inside his cage. Time to add the icing to the cake. "Just like Arashi and the old man." Naruto shook his head. "You're wrong, Kyuubi. I don't know about Arashi, but the old man would never abandon me." "Well then tell me why he hasn't given you any more money or visited once in the past 6 months. Naruto tried to come up with an answer but couldn't. He just looked up as if it might appear on the ceiling and saw the top of the bars. He was in his mind, he realized. He noticed that the Kyuubi was talking, so he turned his attention back to the Great Fox. "Also tell me why he didn't defend you when that man started making accusations that you burned his house down all those years ago." Naruto had forgot all about that. But that's when he realized that the old man had given up on him. Everybody hated him. Even the old Hokage. Naruto saw the fox's tail coming at him, but this time it simply rubbed against his face. "It's okay, kid. You still got me." Naruto smiled at the fox. "Thanks, Kyuubi." With that he left. The Kyuubi just smiled broadly, showing off all his fangs. He would soon be closer to getting out of here. Sarutobi stared in wonder at the man chained to the chair in front of him. His mind was racing at the idea that Arashi was alive and sitting in front of him. But then his thoughts of wonder quickly changed to thoughts of sadness when he noticed that the former Yondaime's happy blue eyes and bright smile were now replaced with cold, glaring eyes, and a scowl on his face. The Sandame sighed. "Well, might as well get to the bottom of it." Sarutobi spared a glance at Jiraiya, before turning his tired eyes back to Arashi. "It's been a long time," the old man said. Arashi didn't say anything, he just kept glaring at Sarutobi as if he were a reincarnation of the thing he hated most. Sarutobi continued, "How did you survive that jutsu?" Arashi just smirked. Yes, smirked like he knew something they didn't. "Every jutsu has a weakness. Even the forbidden jutsu." Everyone looked shocked. Guy didn't even say anything about youth. "That was lame, I know still. The jutsu only says it needs a sacrifice, not a person. Like we all thought." There was silence as everyone let him continue. "So say for example if it was a shadow clone that did the jutsu." Arashi paused, letting the information sink in. Jiraiya was the first to speak. "Impossible. I've studied that jutsu 1,000 times, there's no way that a shadow clone could be taken as a sacrifice. You can't fool the death god." Arashi just had a smile on his face. If you make a blood clone, then even a god can't tell the difference. He let the sentence hang so they could take it in. Anko came up and grabbed his hand. He noticed that she was shaking and that there were tears in her eyes. "Why didn't you come back?" she asked. "We needed you as. You're the hero of the village. I needed you." She squeezed his hand even tighter. Arashi looked at her. His eyes remained cold and dark. "I've seen what happens to heroes of the village." Everyone winced at that comment. Sarutobi was about to say something, but Kakashi beat him to it. "I am sorry I failed you, sensei. But at least he isn't dead." Arashi wanted to kill this fool. How dare he say that, not dead? He shouted, "Have you seen him? Hated everywhere he goes, hated by everyone, called names, the harsh stares that he receives." Arashi looked at Kakashi. "Go spend an entire day with him and tell me if he's not dead on the inside. And to make it worse, he hides all his pain behind that facade." Sarutobi sighed. "You mean that? He was faking it all these years?" Arashi growled, "Are you stupid? If someone went through all that pain and suffering, you think that they'd actually be happy and jumping for joy?" "I thought so. And besides, I've heard him talking to Kyuubi." Night random alley. Naruto walked off the street and turned into the alley, pushing some drunk fat man out of their way in the process. He could see a person standing in the alley, but he ignored him until he heard a voice behind him. "Excuse me." Naruto turned around only to be stabbed in the abdomen with a knife. He fell to the ground with a pained grunt. His left eye went up and tried to look around for the person that stabbed him. He couldn't see anything except for a shadow. Naruto heard the other man walk up and kick him in the gut. The Jinchuriki grunted in pain. All he heard was a chuckle before the beatdown began. Hokage Tower Anko slapped Arashi in the face before shouting, "You should have came back so we could have been together. I lost both of you that day. You and our son." Arashi laughed before saying, "Well, it would be better off if he wasn't here." Anko gasped, "W. What do you mean?" Arashi looked at her with what seemed to be pity. "You never found out cause you passed out as soon as he was born. But your son's name is Naruto Uzumaki." It was as if at that moment something had opened up inside of Anko. The empty space was now filled with love and regret. That was when the memories came rushing back to her. Like when she would lick Naruto's neck and face, and grab his private. Or the time when Anko used her snakes to pin Naruto against the wall so she could French kiss him. And then the most recent memory. When she slapped him as hard as she could. Anko couldn't help but let the tears fall down her face, as she realized what she had done, and how she had just added more pain to Naruto's heart. Without even thinking, Anko ran out the door and out of the tower, intent on making things right with her and Naruto. Sarutobi, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Kurenai, Guy, and Asuma just stood there for a few seconds before Arashi broke the silence. "Well, that went well," he said sarcastically. Everyone just stared at him, wondering why he had changed and how much they hated him for not even caring about Anko. Sarutobi was thinking about Naruto and the Kyuubi, and wondered what would happen. "Chamber. How do you feel, Orochimaru-sama?" "A lot better. All my bones are healed, but it's still hard to breathe. By tomorrow that will be over and you'll be fully healed. Then you can destroy Konoha whenever you feel like it." Orochimaru smiled. "Thanks to your help, Ozashi. I see Kabuto has trained you well." Ozashi smiled. "Thank you, Orochimaru-sama. Now if you'll excuse me, I must tend to Kaminamaro." With that, the doctor in training walked off, leaving Orochimaru to ponder what he would do to get Sasuke's body. "Oh, screw it," Orochimaru thought. "Maybe I should just cut out his eyes and put them in my head." Shaking his head, the snake saw inside before turning back to the dead body on the table. Anko was almost at Naruto's apartment when she heard a commotion going on in a near alley. Deciding to check it out, she jumped up and landed on the edge of a house. She gasped. Naruto was getting beat by the Sand Ninja and Kabuto. Anko ran off the building and kneed the Sand Ninja in his gut. Anko spun around intent on delivering a roundhouse kick to the traitor ninja, but she discovered that he was at the end of the alley along with Kankuro, who was holding his abdomen in pain. A second later they disappeared, and Anko ran over to Naruto and began checking him for any injuries. When she saw that he only had a lot of bruises and would only be sore for the next few days, she hugged him. Naruto tensed cause he thought Anko might try to pull a move on him, but he relaxed when he didn't feel her hands going anywhere they shouldn't be going. Anko pressed her lips against his and left them there for a whole minute. I'm sorry, Naruto. I'm sorry for every single thing I did to you. Naruto was speechless. He didn't say anything as Anko again hugged him and continued talking. I hope you can forgive me. For all that I've done to you. And you ever need to talk. I'll be here for you, okay? In the tower, Sarutobi and the Junins smiled. They all thought that Naruto would now have a family and be happy. What Naruto did, however, changed their decision, and what he said next shocked them to their core. Back in the alley, Naruto was about to say that he forgave her when he remembered the promise he had made to himself. Naruto put his hands on her chest and pushed as hard as he could. The result was that she was actually pushed off of him and a few feet back. Naruto stood up and dusted himself off. Don't bother. Anko was shocked. What had she done wrong, she thought. Naruto scowled at her before turning around and walking away. Please stop. Anko shouted at him. Wait, don't you trust me? She asked. No, was his icy reply. I don't trust anyone from this village. He continued. I only trust two people that are in this village. One is the man that Jiraiya and Kakashi came and took away. Anko wasn't really surprised with that, but the next one came as a surprise for everyone, including Arashi. And the person I trust the most as well. A part of me. In the tower there was silence from everyone, due to the shock of what Naruto had just said. That silence was shattered by Arashi. Well, no one was expecting that, were they? Everyone looked at him before turning back to the crystal ball. Back in alley, Anko slowly got up and walked over to him, and put her arms around him before he could react. I'll prove myself to you. I promise. Naruto didn't move. He was thinking in his head, we'll see. With that he disappeared and left Anko standing there wondering how she could gain his trust. Temari was strolling down the street looking for her brother when she heard her a poof. A few feet away from her, Naruto appeared from out of nowhere. She saw that he was bleeding from a few bruises on his body, so she decided to check on him. Pervert or not, she wanted to make sure he was alright for their match. Hey Naruto. She called. Naruto turned around and glared at her. What? He replied. Temari took a step back. She hadn't expected him to act cold towards her. If anything, she had expected him to start apologizing to her. She shook her head and walked over to him and put her hand on his shoulder. Are you okay? Naruto snorted, knocking Temari's hand off of him. I don't need your pity, and secondly, don't act innocent. What are you talking about? I'm not acting. I don't know what you're talking about. Naruto looked at her. So you didn't ask your brother and his teammate top jump me? Temari gaped at him for what seemed like a minute before answering. They did what? I'll kill Kankuro, I swear. That's when it hit her. Maybe Naruto didn't touch her on purpose. Maybe Kankuro did something to him. She had to test her theory, though, that Naruto wasn't a perv. Temari pressed herself against him and kissed him on the mouth. Come on Naruto. I know you want to have your way with me. Go ahead. I won't stop you, she said seductively, kissing him again. The Kyuubi container felt his defenses weaken and was having to use every amount of strength he had to keep himself from getting her on the wall. Temari, stop. Now. He put his hand in front of her and kept it there. I will not do something that we'll both regret. And plus, we're both too young. And I wouldn't do that to you. Temari stopped and smiled warmly at him. Oh Naruto. I knew you weren't like that. I just had to be sure I wasn't making a mistake. Well, I've got to go deal with a certain makeup-faced idiot. With that, Temari walked off, leaving a happy Naruto behind. But when she turned the corner, Naruto's face turned to one of disgust and annoyance. He could hear the Kyuubi laughing away in his mind. You're getting soft, kid. Shut up, Naruto replied. When the time comes, I'll kill her as well. Naruto Uzumaki had gone out for a late walk before he went to sleep. Becoming bored with wandering around aimlessly, he went to Ichiraku's to have some ramen. When he went in, he saw the sweet Ayame wiping the counter. The Jinchuriki was about to leave when a voice stopped him. Hi Naru-kun. Care for some ramen? Said Nin, turned around and smiled. If it's all right with you, Aya-chan. She smiled. Of course it's all right. Father's in the back. I'll see if he's awake enough to cook. Naruto nodded as she left. A few minutes later, Ayame came back with a big bowl of ramen, mixed with a lobster, pieces of chicken, and vegetables, and shrimp. Naruto looked up at her and she smiled sweetly. Just eat it, it's for you. It actually took him 10 minutes to eat it all. He looked up at her when he was done. That was the best ramen in the world, and the meats and veggies made it even better. The Kyuubi container stood up and walked towards Ayame. When he was in front of her, he grabbed her by the waist and held her. Since he couldn't see her face, he didn't see the blush that would have made Vincent's cape jealous. "Thank you for always being nice to me, when no one else would." The ramen waitress smiled and hugged Naruto back. "You're welcome, Naru-kun. Do good in the Chunin exams tomorrow, okay?" The blonde-haired shinobi let go of her and laughed. "Okay. I promise that I'll win." Ayame hugged him one more time before going to the back. "You better. Or no ramen for a month." She laughed at his jaw hitting the floor. Recovering from his shock, he walked out of the ramen restaurant with a new motivation. He was so caught up in thinking about how life would be with no ramen for a month, that he didn't notice that he'd bumped into a certain sand kunoichi. Ow. Naruto looked down and saw that Temari was on the ground, rubbing her behind. Slowly he offered her his hand, which she took, and pulled herself up. Then she dusted herself off before turning to him. "What are you doing here?" "Nothing that you need to know about," was Naruto's short answer. The kunoichi sighed, before timidly saying, "Nah, Naruto. Look, I'm sorry about what happened, and what I said, and I wish I could take it back but I can't." She looked at him before continuing, "Besides, you seemed okay yesterday night." Naruto shook his head. "There's something called acting. I mean, you were throwing yourself all over me. What was I supposed to do?" Temari knew he was right, that she had been going a bit too far perhaps. "Well, do you forgive me for all that I said, and did?" she asked, her voice hopeful. He didn't say nothing, he just held out his hand. "Friends?" The kunoichi smiled and put her hands in his. "Friends." Naruto then put his hand on her shoulder. "Let's beat the hell out of everyone in the exams tomorrow, okay?" Temari smirked. "You don't to tell me twice." With that both parted ways, each having high spirits. It was a sunny morning in Konoha when Naruto Uzumaki walked out of his apartment and into the crowded streets of the Leaf Village. He was now wearing a long black coat, with a black shirt underneath, and a pair of black baggy pants. You know, like Dante from Devil May Cry, but with a black shirt on and no guns, and his coat and pants are black. His headband was nowhere to be found. It was still under the pile of trash in his room. Good place, ain't it? With his hands in his pockets he casually strolled down the road, only taking his left hand out of his pocket to give the finger to anyone that said anything bad to him. No one would notice even if they gazed at him closely, but Naruto was busy thinking about last night, and how Temari had treated him. I hope that she was telling the truth, cause I'd like to try to be friends with her. Shaking his head to rid himself of these thoughts, he continued to the arena where the occupier of his thoughts was currently waiting for him. Looking to his left, he saw Sasuke walking to the arena as well. Naruto waved his hand, and got a grunt in reply from the Uchiha. The blonde-haired genin sighed before continuing to where the final exams were taking place. Sarutobi sat in his chair beside the case cage and couldn't help but think something was wrong as he gazed down at the contestants in the Chunin exam. He knew that Orochimaru was up to no good, and wondered if continuing the exam was such a good idea. The professor snapped out of his thoughts when he saw someone shushin in front of him. Standing before him in the surprised case cage was none other than the strongest cage ever to walk the lands, Kazama Arashi. The third was shocked but acted as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile Orochimaru, case cage, raised an eyebrow at this newcomer. He could sense that his guards, aka the Sound Four, were on edge because of Arashi's sudden appearance. The Sandaime didn't notice this because he was so focused on Arashi. "Ah, Kyaku, what are you doing here?" Sarutobi asked. The guards of the case cage couldn't help but laugh as they all shared the same thought. He's named after a topping of ramen, ha ha ha. They were shook out of their thoughts when Kyaku cleared his throat. "Case cage-sama, I suggest you quiet your pathetic shinobi, before I use them to clean the dirt off my shoes." Arashi, Kyaku paused before he continued, especially when they would be facing a former cage. Sarutobi sighed, then slapped his head. Arashi never had to go show off before, so why now? He shook his head to clear his mind. Sarutobi looked to his right to see the Sandnin's reactions. The case cage's face was a sight to behold. It was a mixture of puzzlement, wonder, and worry. The case cage's guards were sweating bullets, and the one with paint on his face looked like he was about to have a heart attack. Orochimaru had to discover what village he was from. Former cage or not, any ninja on that level was a major problem. What village were you from? Orochimaru asked worriedly. Let's put it like this, Arashi said lazily. 14 years ago, I died, sealing the Kyuubi. X scene change. Ha ha ha, probably hate to have one now, don't you? The entire crowd booed as Naruto Uzumaki entered the arena. But either he didn't notice, or he was acting slow, 'cause he was waving at everyone, and giving them the peace. Wait. Oh, he was giving them the finger. Arashi looked down at Naruto, and when he saw what he was doing, he smiled. Sarutobi sighed. I never could get him to stop doing that. Seeing Arashi, and Kakage's looks, he continued. He picked it up when he was 3 from that samurai Kenji. That's good and all, interrupted the Kakage, but can we continue? Arashi was still laughing but replied, fine, fine, after the Kyuubi appeared. Naruto pretended to not care, but inside it still hurt to know that, except for 5 people, Temari, Anko, Arashi, Kenji, and Sarutobi, everyone else hated him. But suddenly in the middle of all the booing and name-calling a voice could be heard. Go Naruto. You're the best, you could win even if you were asleep. Uzumaki looked around and saw Anko Mitarashi jumping up and down, like a crack addict that found a kilo of crack. Naruto smiled at her, but then quickly stopped embarrassed. But Anko had saw it and knew that she was getting through to him. For the rest of the tournament she cheered for him, even when it wasn't his match. When it was someone else's match, she told the other viewers how much they sucked compared to Naruto, and that he was the best. Genma sighed for the 6th time in 3 minutes. He really wished Anko would shut up so he could concentrate, and get the matches underway. Finally, hearing the signal, he turned his attention to the contestants. First match. Shino Aburame and Shikamaru Nara versus Ino Yamanka and Mai. Both teams walked towards the center of the arena and glared at each other. Shikamaru had a plan to win this match easily, all he needed was his partner's cooperation. Pissed Shino. Yes. The bug user replied. You know how girls are afraid of bugs? The Nara asked. Your point? Well, when they see bugs they run away, but if they were stuck where they were as the bugs advanced. The Aburame put his hand on his glasses. I see. Very well, we'll use your plan. Genma looked at both teams before lowering his hand. Begin. Shikamaru threw some shuriken at Ino and Mai, which made them split up. Mai dodged left while Ino dodged right. They smirked at Shikamaru, not even noticing that they landed near the shadows. Ino did some hand seals and was about to do her signature mind-controlling jutsu, when she found that she couldn't move. The Yamanka could hear Mai shouting profanities at Shikamaru and Shino, who was now telling his big roaches to go crawl all over them and suck their chakra. The result was pandemonium. Mai started screaming and crying, while Ino was scared stiff, and not making a sound. It was so loud that Anko's shouts were blocked out and the crowd started covering their ears. The effect wasn't lost on the cages as the Kakage, Arashi, and Sarutobi all covered their ears. What did you say? Orochimaru shouted. I said I will show you Jiraiya's secret stash. Their conversation had switched to Jiraiya and Orochimaru. Kakage had admitted that he's read a few about boys, but he didn't tell them that part. Shikamaru smirked as he remembered when he and Naruto had pulled the same prank on Sakura and Ino. Flashback. Ino and Sakura had been shouting at Naruto, so he decided to get them back. The only problem was that they'd run away if he came near. Shikamaru sighed before muttering troublesome, then said that he's helped Naruto only if he wouldn't scream when they pranked the unsuspecting Kunoichi. So the 2 7-year-old boys had went into the bushes. Shikamaru saw them and gave Naruto the signal to get into the tree. Sakura and Ino were so caught up talking about Sasuke that they didn't even notice when they walked into the shadow. After a minute they realized they weren't moving and looked around wildly. That's when the spiders dropped down on top of them. They screamed so loud that Orochimaru named his village sound. But the funny thing was that a few days later, Naruto admitted that he hadn't dropped the spiders. Weird, huh? Flashback. Shikamaru realized that Genma had declared his team the winner. The shadow user looked over at the Kunoichi team, and saw that they were passed out. Shino nodded his head towards Shikamaru and walked back up the stairs to where the other contestants were waiting. As they walked by, Naruto laughed. You remember that, Shikamaru? Shikamaru just smiled at him, and looked at Shino, who was also receiving congratulations. Genma sighed. It was a funny plan and it worked like a charm. Shaking his head, he called out the contestants for the next match. Now for the second match. Genma said loudly, Naruto Uzumaki and Sabaku no Temari versus Kabuto and Sabaku no Kankuro. Naruto jumped off the platform and landed on the ground below. Temari landed right beside him and pulled her fan out. Genma raised his hand, looked at both teams to confirm that they were ready, then lowered his hand. Second match begin. Arashi had his full attention on Naruto's match, and couldn't wait to see what his son could do. Anko had similar thoughts, though she expressed hers verbally, and loudly. Time to get creative for his match. Never been done before in any of the numerous fics that I've read. As soon as Genma said begin, both Kankuro and Kabuto rushed at Naruto in a 2-on-1 assault. Naruto put up a sloppy guard before Kabuto's punch hit him in the jaw. He had little time to rest however, cause Karasu was coming at him fast with a blade looking to stab him in the gut. He quickly rolled out of the way, then immediately did a flip backwards to avoid Kabuto's scalpel. Temari was pissed cause they were simply attacking Naruto and not both of them, so she decided to end that problem. She quickly lifted her fan into the air and shouted, Wind style. Wind scythe jutsu. A massive mini tornado picked up and started towards Kabuto and her brother. While they were distracted, she ran towards Naruto to see if he was alright. She held out her hand, which he took, and she pulled him up. Naruto wiped dust off his clothes, before looking at the Suna Kunoichi. You don't mind if I hurt your brother till he's in a coma, do you? She laughed, No, I don't mind, but I'm going to get him first. Naruto nodded, "'Kay. Let's get them." With that they both charged at their opponent, Naruto to Kabuto, and Temari to Kankuro. Naruto made 2 clones and then sent one of them to throw kunai and shurikens at the sound spy, while the other clone launched jutsu after him. The real Naruto made a Rasengan in his hand and ran as fast as he could at the glass nin, who somehow kept dodging everything. Naruto jumped back and dispelled his clones. He sneaked a look at Temari and saw that she was wiping the floor with Kankuro. Everything his puppet sent at her she just threw it back at him with a wind jutsu. It's not good to take your focus off your opponent, you know. Naruto looked at where Kabuto was standing only to find he was gone. Silently the Jinchuriki cursed himself for forgetting about Kabuto. Pow! A fist came from above him, and when he looked up it lodged itself in his left cheek. He fell to the ground and rolled a few feet away. He heard Temari say his name while Kabuto was taunting him. Darn, it's like he sees every attack and... Suddenly he had a plan. It was dirty, but would be effective. To Temari this couldn't have been any easier, plus she got to beat up her brother. He kept sending a bomb or blades at her, and with a simple wave of her fan, his weapons were sent right back at him. But she was worried about Naruto, and if he was going to win against Orochimaru's right-hand man. You know, I've always wondered if there's a left-hand man, who knows? She could only hope. She turned back to her brother, who was trying to find a way to hit her. The Suna Kunoichi reminded herself to not hurt Kankuro too bad, cause he was needed in the operation. She winced. She had decided to not tell Naruto about the invasion. Oh well, I'm sure there are other great guys that are hot, nice, and understanding. Now she wouldn't admit it to anyone, but she was actually in love with Naruto. I mean, besides the villagers, who isn't? Temari sighed before turning back to her brother. Naruto made 3 clones and told them all to go hold Kabuto in place. They dodged his pathetic earth jutsu and each grabbed a part of him. The first 2 clones grabbed hold of his arms, while Naruto's last clone came out of the ground and pulled Kabuto in till all you could see was his head. Naruto calmly walked over there and took Kabuto's glasses off and broke them. The spy was looking around frantically, looking like he was about to cry. Up where the cages were, there were different reactions. Arashi was laughing his head off, while Sarutobi slapped his forehead, talking about how that's unbefitting of a shinobi. Orochimaru had a look of amusement, as he had never seen Kabuto in this kind of situation before, and Orochimaru's guards, being kids in reality, were laughing and pointing cause they thought Kabuto was so good. Anko was laughing and telling Naruto what an ingenious plan he had come up with. Naruto's sweat dropped. Wow, all I did was pull off his glasses, and they all go crazy. Weird. Uzumaki looked at Kabuto, who was still looking around, and smirked. Time to die. Naruto charged a Rasengan and ran at Kabuto, who was struggling in vain to get out of the ground. The Rasengan went through his face and kept going till it disappeared. Naruto then ran over to Kankuro, who was crying out in frustration, 'Cause he couldn't hit Temari. He did some hand signs and shouted. Water style. Downpour jutsu. Kankuro looked up when he felt something land on his head, but he shouldn't have done that, because as soon as he looked up a waterfall of water came down upon him and his unsuspecting face. Naruto pointed and laughed at him. Ha 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 ha, oops, did I wash off your makeup, pretty boy? Kankuro was shaking, and Temari was worried, thinking that maybe that had gone a little too far. But she didn't have time to think further cause she was thrown into the air, and then slammed back down mercilessly. She cried out and Naruto turned to her, but couldn't do anything as he was also kicked into the side of the arena. The crowd looked around wildly, wondering what had happened to the contestants, when they saw a person land beside Kankuro. It was Kabuto, with his glasses unbroken, and his face still put together. Everyone gasped while Kabuto shook his head. Did they think I'd actually die that easily? His question was left unanswered as a giant wind gust hit him directly and caused him to fly into Kankuro, then sending both of them crashing into the wall. Slowly they both got up and walked over to where Temari and Naruto were. When they were within 5 feet of each other they stopped. Naruto was glaring at Kankuro, while Temari was doing the same but at Kabuto. Naruto suddenly looked down at his shoe, and Kankuro did as well. But right after Kankuro looked down, Naruto brought his foot up as hard as he could and lodged it in the puppet user's jaw. Picture this. You're standing up and your friend is right in front of you. Then you look at your shoe and he does the same, and while he's distracted looking at your feet you bring it up as fast as you can and bam right into his chin, jaw, face. But you shouldn't hurt your friends. Kankuro fell on the ground and didn't get up. It was easy to see that his jaw was broken. Temari winced, thinking that now he might have to sit out of the operation. But at least he isn't dead, she figured. She looked at Naruto and smiled at him. That was a powerful kick, Naruto-kun, said Ninja, just scratched the back of his head sheepishly. Ah, it was nothing, Temari-chan. She just nodded and then they both looked at Kabuto, who was getting worried. Hey Temari-chan. Yes, Naruto-kun. Let's finish this quickly, okay? Temari just pointed her fan at Kabuto, and Naruto charged a Rasengan. Kabuto tried to move, but when he did, the Sand Kunoichi raised her fan and shouted Wind Scythe Jutsu. The mini tornado was cutting him up, but that wasn't all. Without warning, Naruto suddenly shoved his full-powered Rasengan into the tornado and it turned blue, and grew bigger, and started to spin faster. When it hit Kabuto the result was catastrophic. The spy started screaming and he had very deep cuts all over his body. With his last amount of energy, Kabuto shouted, give up. Stop. They stopped the blue tornado of destruction, and looked at Genma, who declared them the winners. Naruto turned and looked up at where Arashi was, and saw him clapping and smiling. He then turned to Anko and had to cover his ears. Oh my god, Naruto, you are the best. I told all you lazy suckers Naruto's the best. The blonde shinobi laughed and turned to Temari, and nodded at her. Temari smiled at him, and jumped on her fan and flew up to where the other contestants were. Naruto walked up there and saw Gaara in the hallway, with a crazed look in his eyes. Uzumaki walked right past him before he decided to speak. That was an interesting match, Naruto. You showed no mercy and would have killed that boy if he hadn't been a clone. Naruto smirked at him, just like the way I'll destroy you? Gaara laughed an insane laugh before replying, no, you can try to stop me, but in the end, I will prove my existence. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki shrugged, we'll see, good luck in your match. Walking to the room with the other contestants, he saw Shikamaru standing there in awe, Shino with his eyebrows raised, Rock Lee saying screw Neji. Naruto is my new rival. Neji looking at him with Byakugan, and Sasuke. The look on his face was priceless. A perfect Kodak moment. Naruto just pointed a finger at himself and said casually, I'm the king. Everyone sighed and turned around while Genma proceeded to call the next match. Borefest, I'll go see what Arashi's up to. With that thought in mind, Naruto teleported up to where the cages were. XTO put it simply, Orochimaru was scared of the potential threat Naruto could cause in the future. The Snake Master was getting ready for the signal to be put in place. It would only be a few minutes. He heard a groan next to him and saw Sarutobi standing up. The matches are going on later than expected, and the Neji, Sasuke vs Gaara, Lee hasn't started yet, so I'm going to the bathroom to relieve myself. Everyone almost barfed as they had a picture of him sitting on the toilet, giving the peace symbol. Oh god. I'm choking on my cookies. Shivering, they didn't say a word till Naruto poofed out of nowhere. Before he could say anything, he was scooped up by Arashi. Naruto, you're the best. That was an awesome trick. The thing with him looking at your shoe and pulling his glasses off, priceless. The former Kage took a breath before continuing, and that Rasengan tornado thing was strong and emitting massive chakra. Naruto just grinned at his dad and sat in the Hokage's chair, saying soon he'd be sitting here when the Chunin exams were over. Soon Enko popped up and gave Naruto congratulations and hugs for doing so well. She said that later she'd have to give him a present that he'd love forever. Naruto smiled and pulled out a scroll and did a seal, and a sword wrapped in bandages appeared in his hands. He decided to use it against Temari, saying that he wouldn't hold back cause she was a girl. Orochimaru grinned evilly in his chair. They may be happy, but soon their whole world will come crashing down on them. And oh how he couldn't wait. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next part.